Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo Sam Monson live on YouTube, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio on Par with Huggies, all brought to you by FanDuel. Today, Sam, going back to training camp rookie edition here. Which rookies are most impressive? Maybe some unimpressive rookies as well. It's like first impressions based off of training camp, going through all the not all the rookies, but significant rookies here.
Time to write off some careers after
a
week and a half.
We should just say overreaction to 2 weeks of football. Months, years of college, months of draft prep. Throw it all out. These last 2 weeks determine everything.
Yep, we got it all covered.
Also have some news to cover. Also have the return of the award-winning Cincinnati Bugler segment.
Well, we're still getting stonewalled by the Cincinnati Bengals, so I feel like we have to step up the harking back to days of yore.
Yeah.
Go back to some real old-fashioned journalism, and complete with a press hat.
We're going back. We're going back and making another pitch to just let us in to watch some football.
Well, so far, multiple emails have gone unanswered. A text message has gone unanswered. So now we're gonna give them a news segment.
You want legacy media? You're getting legacy media. Kay Adams is over there, dropping in for a day. She's not legacy media. They let her into training camp.
Yeah. You would think, television, the talkies, is not really. The Bengals seem to want something more print.
When's the last time you think she wrote?
Right.
A paragraph, a column.
Yeah, a newspaper column, filed
no offense
over
to
the
Kay.
phone.
We like Kay's friend of the show.
Yeah.
Not so much on the show, but
right.
We're friendly with
Yeah.
Kay. You were on her show all the time. I used to work with her in New England, but she just gets to drop right into Cincinnati and go to camp. We don't get to.
She's already in the door, which begs
she's already out.
Aside from anything else, obviously they're familiar with her and she's on the good list, right? But at some point, somebody needs to pick up the phone. Even just getting a response out of them appears to be an achievement at this stage.
Maybe they have different contacts.
Maybe there's a different person that answers the phone.
Someone else.
Like Kay.
Someone else to talk to. All right. Let's start with all the news. Anything else you want to banter about at the top?
No. We're good.
Let's start with the news. We officially got word yesterday out of Minnesota Vikings camp. Kyler Murray named the starting quarterback for the Vikings. This is Ari, our friend Ari Mayron, 33rd team. Vikings named Kyler Murray their week 1 starting quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. He is assuming J.J. is the backup. We talked to Ari yesterday.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an assumption that J.J. is the backup, but what we do officially know is that top part. Kyler Murray is QB1. It was a competition with him and J.J. McCarthy, though, allegedly.
Yeah.
Well done.
Shocking news that the thing that was obvious the moment they signed Kyler Murray has in fact come to pass, that he is the starting quarterback, which was always going to happen. I don't believe for a second that this was a real quarterback competition, in part because a lot of the reports would say if it has been, it's been pretty close so far. So it would be a weird time to be like, yeah, Kyler won the job now. I think it's just been Kyler Murray. They've been trying to get J.J. McCarthy reps because he still needs reps. They can't just, even if Kyler Murray is the starter from day one and he's going to be playing this year, they kind of need J.J. to be getting some reps. Ideally with the starting team. So I think the starting or the competition has been their way of A, achieving that, and B, doing what he can to prop up J.J. McCarthy's confidence, whatever's left of it, not have him completely check out of the plan. But this has been Kyler's job from the second they signed him.
It has. I've got some general thoughts on camp battles and how teams either treat them or should treat them. It's okay to lean on priors and not lean on 2 weeks of football. Again, we're gonna have a whole show based off of initial reactions from rookies, and there's probably some signal in there because this is their first time in the NFL. So everything coming out of the draft was actually a projection, and if a 5th-round pick's looking great against NFL players, it's like, all right, that's great. We have 7 or 8 years of Kyler Murray playing football. We saw what J.J. McCarthy was last year. Even if the reports are true, and I haven't looked at every single beat reporter from Minnesota and what their exact takes were. I've heard some of the JJ stands suggest that he's had a better camp than Kyler Murray. But even if that was true, I don't think it matters. I think it's okay to say we knew what we have an idea of what
it was a competition.
If it was I mean, here's where
competition and one guy wins and you go, well, the other guy won the starting job.
Here's where it would really matter. It would really matter, I think, if J.J. McCarthy was light years ahead of where the Vikings expected, because the reality of these competitions and everything is there's a lot of previous information. There's your priors and everything that you expected coming in. And the only thing that should take you off of that is like, oh, man, he's a completely different person. Everything that we thought was a weakness is now a strength. I mean, it would have to be pretty significant to come off your priors. Because then I think you're just like, man, that 2 weeks. How do we deny this 2 weeks of football? This was great. Anything can happen in 2 weeks.
That's the problem, or that's the challenge with all this, right, is that there are players every year come along and immediately it's obvious that everybody in the draft just goofed, right? One way or the other. It's like, we got it wrong on this guy. He's different than we thought he was. He's a completely different player, either a lot better than everybody thought he was or a lot worse than everybody thought he was. And it's often obvious really early. It's like, we've just missed. Like, time to change everything. The problem is, I don't know that there's a way of differentiating those guys from the guys that are just having a good or a bad 2 weeks in practice.
Right.
And that's the issue, right? Everyone, you want to jump on those guys as early as possible. And this happens like even when players start playing real football as well. It's like, how early on can you declare like J.J. Watt is one of the best defensive linemen to ever play the game? It's like, because nobody's done it better than he's doing it right now. But how many years does he need to stack up like this before we're like, yeah, okay, he's in the Reggie White conversation or whatever, right? It's like, well, so you want to be early on that stuff because at some point it's fairly obvious, but there probably isn't a lot of difference between those guys and the guys that are just lighting it up for a week.
And players develop at different rates. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to this, a lot of nuance to everything that we discuss here. But in this particular case, Kyler Murray named the starting quarterback, and I don't know if the competition would have mattered. I think the Vikings wanted another veteran to work with who's super cheap and has the high-end potential. He's done it before in the NFL level. Now, he hasn't played his best ball in 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
It's been a while for Kyler Murray outside of a few spurts, right? A few spurts where he's got these low-volume games that look spectacular. What do you think is going to happen here with Kyler Murray? We've discussed this before, but let's do it again. What is the fit like for Kevin O'Connell and this Vikings offense with Kyler Murray?
I mean, I think it's a real challenge for Kevin O'Connell because Kyler Murray, is a unique quarterback. He does not play the game the same way that other quarterbacks do, and there's something real to that height issue for shorter quarterbacks, and every single one of them has got to learn how they want to play the game to accommodate the fact that they're 5'10" or whatever, right? And they all do it in a slightly different way. And even dating back to like a Drew Brees or whatever, like Brees had to develop this like bolt upright style, maximize the 6'1" in him or whatever it was, right? It's not like 6'1" now is just perfectly adequate quarterback height, but back then he was 4 or 5 inches shorter than the giant statues of Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. So he had to be like, well, if I can't see, I'm gonna have to really maximize the height, peer over the top of everybody. But Russell Wilson, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, like this whole new wave of shorter quarterbacks that are so good they're kind of undeniable as, I mean, obviously you can play at this level even being 5'10". They need to figure out a way around that because it is a problem. Like it's not like that's just a figment of everybody's imagination and being 5'10" offers no disadvantages whatsoever compared with being 6'5". It does. And they've been able to get around it and in some cases get around it to the tune of being, number 1 overall picks. But you do need to accommodate that. And I do think the way the NFL has changed on defense in the last half dozen years has really taken a hammer to those guys. So this idea of post-snap rotations becoming huge, right? All the stuff that Brian Flores is doing, confusion, misdirection, disguise. You're now adding that layer on top of a guy who's already struggling to get the full picture anyway at the line because of his size. Like now you're like, well, you can't even see the safety that's rotating. Good luck, And I think that's a real challenge. So I don't know how you best maximize a guy like Kyler Murray who needs to be I think to a certain degree, playing outside of the structure of everything, like of the entire play most of the time. Sure, there are plays that he's going to be able to drop back, execute. It's a one-read thing. It's a quick game, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a huge part of his game that basically has to be outside of structure. And I don't know how you weave that into an offense and make it work.
It's an interesting point you make about the safety rotation combined with some shorter quarterbacks around the league. I know that the Russell Wilson thing that we've discussed a ton, it wasn't just his height. It was also the way that he played, right?
Yeah.
He was, because he was a run threat, you're more likely to get 8 in the box, have those one-on-ones on the outside, and that's where he would shine, right? Russell Wilson, a great deep ball thrower, one-on-one outside thrower. Kyler has some similarities to that, where you're trying to get some single high one-on-one looks, and that's where Kyler shines. Neither guy is. I mean, Russ was never really proficient at quick game and 10 to 12 play drives and over and over again getting rid of the ball and just making dropping back 40 times and getting through the game. Russell Wilson was at his best when the run game was at least efficient, and then he drops back 25, 30 times, hits some of those deep balls where he's incredible, and that's where you have the high yards per attempt and everything. Kyler's got some similarities, I think, to Russ. So it's an interesting point. And then high level, you look at Kevin O'Connell. I think we're always looking for, at least I am, offensive coaches who have done it across with multiple quarterbacks. I think that's great signal. Whereas as challenging as it is to find your top 4 quarterback, the next best alternative is to be like a Kyle Shanahan, where you say, give me a decent quarterback and I can elevate him. I can elevate a bunch of different types of quarterbacks. And O'Connell had done that with Kirk Cousins. We always talked about how reprogrammed Kirk Cousins from super conservative to all of a sudden the guy's making fourth quarter comebacks. That's a huge feather in the cap of Kevin O'Connell, being able to do that. Even when he brought Josh Dobbs in and on a whim, very quickly got him up to speed and got the most out of him for a few weeks. And then, of course, doing what he did with Sam Darnold, right? I mean, I know Sam Darnold is now a Super Bowl champion and he left Kevin O'Connell and won with Seattle, but still, at the time, another huge feather in his cap. Hey, here's a 1 year, $10 million deal for Sam Darnold. He's a bridge quarterback while we develop J.J. McCarthy, and all of a sudden, they win 14 games and he's throwing 40 touchdowns and looking great. So O'Connell has hit on all of his QB development, veteran quarterback development, and his only miss is getting the most out of J.J. McCarthy. And it's like, all right, well, is that J.J.'s fault? Did they just not have enough time? J.J. was already a bit of a project given the fact that he was a low-volume quarterback coming out of Michigan. And so now it's another shot at a veteran quarterback, albeit a different style with Kyler than he'd had previously with guys like Cousins, Dobbs, and Darnold.
Yeah, and O'Connell's getting dragged a little bit because of that quote he has of, organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. And McCarthy's 10 starts into his career or whatever at this stage? The problem with the NFL is you don't get the time to be like, it's going to take 3 years, and those 3 years are going to be bad, but by the end of it, we're in a good shape. It might be true that the organization has currently failed J.J. McCarthy, but it's also true to say that they can't run with him anymore. Those two things I think are both fair. They haven't, he has not been optimally set up to succeed, other than the fact that they did allow Sam Darnold to walk and hand him the starting job. I mean, McCarthy could have been unlucky enough that he hurt his knee in preseason when it looked like he was on his way to winning that starting job based off a preseason performance. Darnold lights it up for a year, wins 14 games, looks fantastic outside of a collapse in the playoffs. And then they go, well, we can't let that guy walk out the door, handed him the bag, and McCarthy's just a backup. That would have been, I think, worse for him than getting an opportunity and blowing it. So, it could have been, they could have done him even dirtier than they did him. But it's true to say that he got unlucky, that they threw him out there. He clearly wasn't ready. He struggled last year with some, the offensive line stank because that was banged up. It wasn't all McCarthy. And now he's basically, they just haven't given him the gig again. So it
wasn't an awful situation last year, though.
No, but it was a lot worse than it looked.
How did the organization feel?
That offensive line stank when McCarthy was out there.
At times.
Almost the entire time.
Better.
Justin School was their left tackle. They had none of their interior players.
Not the entire time, though.
For most of it. Darrisaw was back for like bits and pieces and wasn't Darrisaw. They had to keep pulling him back out of the game. And every time they put in Justin School, it was like an instant left tackle sack. That offensive line was garbage. Like, it wasn't – that was the thing. They let Darnold walk. They then used the money they were going to play on Darnold on the offensive line, and they didn't see any of that for the entire time the season was progressing with McCarthy. Only by the end of the year were they getting anything out of that offensive line.
Yeah, that O'Connell quote, again, I mean, I think he probably wouldn't want to say that now because he had never been in that situation, right? At the time, he was the one that was rejuvenating Sam Darnold, and it was kind of like his defense, like, you know, poor Sam was let down by the Jets and the Panthers and these other organizations, and we're saving him. And then, you know, I think KOC might want to walk that back a touch, but I think that statement's also through the lens of, I think Orlovsky does this a lot. I think Louis Riddick does this a lot. You know, evaluators or quarterback central people tends to say, well, it's the organization and it's the structure and it's not the player. I mean, there's a chance it's just the player at some point.
Yeah.
And so I think there are definitely evaluators or a guy like Dan who tends to lean to, you know, he's got 20 top 10 quarterbacks, and whichever of his top 20 have the best situation in a given year and run under center play action, will you know, they'll have the best success. And it's all, you know, you got to do the quarterback a solid. And again, there's truth in some of that. There's kernels of truth in everything. But at some point, like, there's far more evidence that Kevin O'Connell's excellent with quarterbacks, and maybe J.J. McCarthy just stinks. Like, there's a chance that's the case. And by the way, and then when it comes to the organization failing the quarterback, you know, the Minnesota Vikings, they're not obligated to get the most out of J.J. McCarthy. They're obligated to win football games, right? They don't have to sit there and say, well, J.J. just needs 3 more years of development. Let's do him a solid. That's not the goal of the Minnesota Vikings, is to develop quarterbacks. It's to win football games. Now, developing quarterbacks is a really good way to win football games. But also cutting them off and say, hey, we didn't do well in our year and a half. Let's give it to someone. Jim Harbaugh, go get take your boy, right? You develop him behind Justin Herbert. You take care of it. The Minnesota Vikings have to win football games, so they made the best choice for them, which is Kyler Murray, and sometimes you give up on a young quarterback. People are turning on ESPN in the last year being like, man, the Jets really failed Darnold. Like, okay, so what, should they have stuck it out? Should they have just held on to him for 6 years?
That's the thing.
Until he became a Super Bowl winning quarterback? What's the alternative?
There's two. That's the thing. Like,
you said this before. Both things are true.
Right. Ultimately, it's one line, right? It's not like an exhaustive dissertation on quarterback dynamics at the NFL. So, like, there's little elements of context that are missing from his line, which isn't a criticism for O'Connell. It's just you're not going to, like, you know, it's not a complete thought, right? So obviously there are going to be quarterbacks for whom they just stink. Like, there are just bad players that make it as far as the NFL and maybe were even first-round picks, but there was no environment in which those guys were going to work out, right? They were just misses. Nothing. I don't know that you could have put Johnny Manziel in any environment in the NFL and have him work out, because the guy literally didn't watch any tape, right? He didn't care. He was in it, you know, he was just in it for the good time. He had a problem, and he says himself he watched 0 tape, right?
By the way, that's a good example, right? Because somebody might say, oh, it's the Browns.
Now, look, the Browns probably didn't help, but pick a team.
But he had Kyle Shanahan.
I know.
Right? The evidence is here's the list of quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has elevated, and then Johnny Football.
But it's like,
nobody failed Johnny Football besides Johnny.
That's the thing. Like, could you have found a single team in the NFL that would have rescued that guy, right? That wouldn't have let him down? I don't think so. I think he was just on his way out, right?
But sorry.
So there's that, right? There's the fact that no matter what your system is, no matter what the help structure is, there are guys that are just never going to work out. And then the other element is the missing part to the quote, which is, but that's life, right? That's just the way it is. So yes, the failure, if you're apportioning blame to, like, which institution is more to blame for, like, a Darnold with the Jets, you could argue it's the Jets more than it is Sam Darnold, and the better he plays subsequently, the more that's obvious. But you could also, but that's just the reality. Like, you couldn't have gone another year with Darnold, right? And you can't keep going with these guys. So again, with McCarthy, have the Vikings failed McCarthy more than McCarthy has failed the Vikings? Yeah, probably. But does that mean you start him again this year? No, you can't. Like, he was so bad last year, you couldn't possibly go into this season being like, he's ready to go now. He's learned.
Especially when you have a former, very productive NFL quarterback for $1 million available. You have to make that move if you're Minnesota.
So it's like, I don't know that you should drag Kevin O'Connell for that. He's right. Like, the line is correct, which is, generally speaking, teams are more to blame than the quarterback who's failing. But that doesn't mean his solution should be, like, it's not hypocritical to bench McCarthy and go with Kyler Murray.
See, I don't even think that's the case. I don't even know if teams are to fail. I've said this a lot the last couple of years. My eyes have really opened to quarterback hit rates and what expectations should be. Going back to Johnny Football, there's a chance, forget the organization failed, there's a chance they just overdraft, or that Johnny failed. I didn't watch
that's
film.
What I mean.
He might just not be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Like, he just might not be a first-round pick, which is okay because the organization also has to take quarterbacks who maybe would have gone in the second and take them in the first, because if you don't have somebody, you got to try.
But the argument would be, how many Steve Youngs, or is it Jim Plunkett, who had the weird career where, like, the back end of it, like, how many careers years into it, like, how many quarterbacks would succeed if they got 6 years worth of runway to learn on the job, which you can't get in today's NFL?
It's not really the first organization that failed you. It's a nice story. Steve Young found Bill Walsh and developed with the Niners. It's a good story.
But it's also, it required a lot of learning for Steve Young to become Steve Young, is my point. Like, that, you could easily argue that is a failing of the institution, the NFL, more than it is the player, because the elite player was in there. It just took a long time to get him, right? How many elite players get tossed on the scrap heap by today's NFL because you don't have that kind of time anymore, right? Maybe you never had that kind of time, but you certainly don't now.
Mohall brings up Kurt Warner. I think Kurt Warner is a great discussion because he was, bagging groceries. He was in the Arena League. He goes to the Rams. So there's some confounding variables with Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's awesome, by the way. Friend of the show and 33rd team member, and
he was failed multiple times over.
But to your point, so his failure is probably there's no time to actually give him the work to see how good he was. When he did get a chance to go in, he steps in for Trent Green, who got hurt. Trent Green looked like he was ready to become NFL MVP in 1999. Kurt Warner stepped into that situation with two Hall of Fame receivers, Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, and a mad scientist, offensive coordinator, Mike Martz, who's like, man, let's throw the ball down the field. Now, Kurt Warner, again, I'm not taking anything away from Kurt. He was awesome. He was amazing. But he was in an incredible situation in the Rams. Dome team, speed everywhere, the offense. He ran it extremely well. And I think for Kurt, it was great that he also did it in Arizona. But both of his situations had elite receivers. And then he kind of lost it a little bit with the Rams, throwing picks everywhere. Trent Green came back and actually had better numbers than Kurt for a minute. So, again, there's always something going on here. There might not be a better group of playmakers this century than what the Rams had in 99 and 2000. And Kurt got to step into that.
Warner, though, I don't think his is a particularly good or instructive case study for this, because he was failed in a different way before any of that, which is he went undrafted. Nobody knew Kurt Warner was good at any point, right, basically, until he proved it. He got lucky with an opportunity, and then he showed, hey, actually, this guy's an MVP. You just missed on him. That's different from a guy who the league believed was good and was a first-round draft pick, and then the league failed him by not developing the first-round draft pick into the good player, right? And as you said, maybe that guy was Johnny Manziel, and there was no good player to be gotten out of him because the man was on a self-destruction pathway, or just wasn't good in the first place and we overdrafted him. But I think it's different from the league just never realized this guy was a good player versus the league knows this guy was good and then failed his development for the first X years of his career. I think that's a different argument.
We had to veer off into QB development questions and everything.
And you were worried this would be a short show.
Never worried about that. I'm just worried we bring to the table everything that needs to be brought, and it's already been brought, as they said in some movie. I stand by the NFL is not failing quarterbacks. They are hitting on quarterbacks at the expected rate.
But I think that is a failing of the individual quarterbacks. Like, they're not failing failing institutionally as in they're basically hitting at the right strike rate. They've optimized it, right? But that's why the individuals get screwed, because you've optimized the system, which is
that's a fair point.
You get 12 games, and if you haven't shown it in 12 games, we don't have the kind of time to see if it takes 36 games. Like, you're gone.
Yeah, it might not be great for the player.
Like, they are failing the individual to maximize their success. This is what, like, the Dolphins with Malik Willis this year, right? It's why there's this pull and push where they might screw Malik Willis because it doesn't matter from their point of view. Their point of view, they just need to find a quarterback. And if that's Malik Willis, great. If it's not, it costs them a year and a half of Malik Willis money and they get the next guy in, right? It doesn't matter to them whether they screw Malik Willis along the way, as long as they end up with a quarterback. That's how you end up screwing the individuals. So I think that both things can be true, right? They are letting the individual down, but that doesn't mean they're doing the wrong thing, which is the point in all this.
Yeah. I always lean on, from a team perspective, I don't think their quarterback strike rate, that part is really off given the constraints.
Right, like they're not that's what I'm saying. They're not doing the wrong thing necessarily, but they may actually be screwing the individual players.
Just to repeat what I've said before, and we'll get right to the rookie buzz. The constraints being there's 32 starters. Of those 32 starters, only, half the teams feel half decent about that. Yeah. 8 teams feel really good about it. 4 teams feel great about it, and they give 10-year contracts, right? I mean, there's a small percentage of the 32 starting quarterbacks who it's like, yep, that's our guy. That's our guy forever. To the point where if I use Tua is going to be my example forever. I mean, the same way Andy Dalton was QB 15 for a while, and it was like the Dalton inflection point. Tua is going to be my example forever. Where if he performed at the level that he performed at any other position, you would edge rusher, cornerback, equivalent production at any other position. You'd say, oh, that's a good pick. It's fine. It's maybe not what we wanted at number 5 overall, but it's good. Like if Mansour Delane becomes a Tua level cornerback, you'd be like, yeah, it's a good corner for the Chiefs. Is he Pat Surtain? No, but we'll take it. It's a good starter, but you don't have that luxury at quarterback. You can't just sit there with him. You're going to pay him $50 and then say, well, we need more. We need a better quarterback. We got to move on. No other position is treated with that level of not just scrutiny, but that level of expectation. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have. There's no fallback plan. You can't be a backup. You can't be QB2. You can't even be QB20 in the league. You can't even be ranked the 20th best quarterback and feel good about that. That's why Daniel Jones is always such like a hot button issue. Like, is he good? Is he not? I don't know. Do you want to win with Daniel Jones? Can you win with Daniel Jones? All right. Kyler Murray, starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's talk rookies. So we did our training camp buy and sell. There'll be some crossover with what we had there, but we wanted to go through first impressions of rookies around the NFL. Similar idea, are we buying or selling? Or more importantly, what does it mean? Because I think when one of these players emerges, the next question is, how does this reset expectations? My friend Bud Elliott does Cover 3 podcast for CBS Sports for college football, and he does his summer school series. He goes through almost like 80 teams or whatever it is, and he always asks the beat writer, 24/7 Sports writer on that show. He said, name a player where if he reaches expectations a year early, it changes the fortunes for that team. I think there's an angle there where we look at this and say, well, Jacoby Lane, if Jacoby Lane is truly the best Ravens rookie receiver of the last 30 years, how does that change the fortunes for the Ravens? And I think we can ask and answer that question in some of these cases here.
Yeah, which has been a line for Lane.
What's that?
Which has been a line for Lane. Was it Jamison
Helmsley?
Yeah. What's his name? Has basically said he's been covering the Ravens was 27 years, and he said Lane is the best looking rookie receiver they've ever had.
So given the fact that they have Rashad Bateman, they've got Zay Flowers, you have Isaiah Likely out now, and Mark Andrews getting a little bit older, how does Jacoby Lane, big-bodied receiver making one-handed catches and tearing up training camp, how does that change the fortunes for the Ravens if he is the best Ravens rookie receiver
Well, it's funny because
millennium.
there's a bunch of these players that we're going to look at, and some of them are like, okay, they were high draft picks that a lot of people liked, that it sort of makes sense, right? And then there are other people where if they actually are the player that they're being talked about right now, it's going to send so many people back to the draft board, that the draft board, the actual draft board. That it's crazy. Like, it's going to completely shift everything you thought. Like, there are people that hated Jacoby Lane and were like, this guy cannot separate to save his life, cannot ever get open, makes no good plays outside of a couple of spectacular catches. There's no way, right? And if he actually turns out to be just the next superstar wide receiver randomly, it would blow a lot of people's minds. I will say, and we talked about this a little bit while prepping this show, the style of player that Jacoby Lane is, he is extremely naturally gifted when it comes to just hands, basic ball skills. You can imagine a guy like that looking really good in training camp just in terms of catching the eye, because nothing catches the eye better than like an off-balance one-handed catch. If anything, it looks better when it's tight coverage, right? And there's sort of two elements to being a good receiver. There's, did you get open in the first place? And then what happened when the ball arrived, right? And those are almost two completely different skill sets. And sometimes the second one is the only one you're going to be paying attention to. Well, the ball arrived and he made a spectacular one-handed catch. Ergo, everything before that was great. It's like, yeah, but did you notice how he didn't actually get open at the time when there was a corner basically hanging off him? That's not necessarily a particularly predictive or instructive wide receiver play, because the first part is important there. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Jacoby Lane. I'm just saying that I can imagine a world where a guy doesn't necessarily separate extremely well, but does make a few spectacular catches in training camp, and that guy's being talked about as having like the best camp of anybody there.
Let me give you two anecdotal comparisons here for Jacoby Lane then.
Yeah.
This was a lot of George Pickens' career early on. There was every George Pickens highlight. First off, a lot of them started at training camp.
Right.
But it was always spectacular catches. And then, there's always the question of, was George Pickens always that guy, or did he just need to be unlocked a little bit more and it took him until year maybe 3 or 4 to show, hey, we've got some after the catch skills. And then last year puts it all together and has an incredible, oh, wow, George Pickens, who we had described as he's a high-end wide receiver too, does most of his best work. And I like when people call him combat catches instead of contested catches. I like that.
It's a good development.
He's a combat catch guy. And all of a sudden last year he develops even more, and he's got the all-around wide receiver 1 skills. So that's one comparison. Mm-hmm. The other one would be last year at this time, who was stealing our hearts at training camp and every preseason game? Isaac TeSlaa from the Detroit Lions. Now, the report out of this year's camp is that TeSlaa is having a sluggish camp, I believe.
That's a good comp, actually, because like Dan Campbell has come out and basically said he needs to do more than make spectacular one-handed catches. Yeah.
So that's the and TeSlaa is interesting because I've got my draft score model and everything that I I sell to NFL teams, work with NFL clubs, like when people call them clubs.
Ball
too.
Clubs?
Yeah, clubs. And TeSlaa is really low in it. And I'm like, all right, which is fine.
Despite being really athletic.
He's really athletic, but a lot of it's he was coming from a super small school.
No, I'm just saying.
He had limited sample. So there's a reason why the pure data might not like him. But I always say there's a data story behind every player. So with TeSlaa, I'm not rooting against players, but you want your data to be backed up and everything. So from a data perspective, I wouldn't have found him. But the Lions, who I think have done a great job drafting, and Brad Holmes and their entire team, they loved TeSlaa so much they traded up to get him in the 3rd round. And there were some TeSlaa fans, and I get it. I'm watching him play last year. We were hyping him up, right? And he was making spectacular catches every week in the preseason and into the regular season. But I wonder if the data, like the data is going to lean on every snap and pure production across the board. And he was a little bit lower there. He was a little more boom or bust. And I wonder if that's catching up to him a little bit right now in Lions camp. And I think there's maybe some comparisons with Jacoby Lane there, where if, like you're saying, if the best thing he does is be a big-bodied, spectacular catch guy, is that enough? Now, for the Ravens this year,
it's also hard to do that consistently.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's not like it's easy.
Right.
But if he's wide receiver 3, if he has a chance to step in and steal some wide receiver 3 snaps with Bateman and Flowers and Mark Andrews, that's a huge development for the Ravens.
Or, the Matt Harmon trademark, the sacrificial X. Like if you're able to take those snaps on the outside, it doesn't really matter if you're covered because you're basically just chewing up the reps so that somebody else can get the target anyway. he could do that. I will say, I didn't hate Jacoby Lane as a prospect. He was confusing, but like there's something about the way the guy moves. Like he's got this gliding running style for a guy that big. He does catch the eye quite a lot. Now, again, the separation, can you beat press coverage? Like these are all things that he's going to have to prove beyond just making spectacular one-handed catches in training camp. But I wouldn't be as blown away as others if he ended up actually surprising people and emerging as a good NFL player.
Just looking through my Jacoby Lane notes. By the way, I had a much higher draft score on Jacoby Lane than
there you go.
Tesla. He was a 73, which is good. It's not as high as Elijah Surratt,
Sure,
who was over a 90, his teammate who was drafted around later. But I wrote some Dwayne Jarrett same school vibes from Lane.
That's
but
not great.
Doesn't mean, comparisons aren't always like for like. There's just my own notes to try to paint a picture, because he's got some. I don't think he looked dynamic necessarily, but he had some wiggle after the catch, toughness over the middle. He does add a component of toughness and combat catchability that I think can be used well in this Ravens offense.
Yeah, the cautionary tale for that style of player is probably Josh Doxson, the TCU receiver, who was like everything about his tape was like combat catches and look at these spectacular plays, and then you get to the NFL and you just can't separate. It's like, okay, but it's just a bad percentage play, right? You can't. Almost nobody is good enough at the NFL level to consistently feed them those targets if you're never open.
He was an aesthetically pleasing receiver.
That's what I'm saying.
Josh Doxson.
I think that's true for Lane as well, but it doesn't matter if you won't get open.
All right, so we're keeping the first guy on the list. We'll have a very special bugler up.
We're gonna have a local news dispatch from the for the for the attention of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Let's circle back to Cyrus Allen. So I know we mentioned him on the last show as well, but rookie wide receiver for the Chiefs. His buzz started early, and it's continued. Maybe the most telling one, I can't remember where the tweet came from, but it was the first 2 targets during blitz period went to Cyrus Allen. That might be, of all the spectacular catches and these different things that he's done.
That's a hell of a catch.
That was a really good catch, the one-hander over the middle. So he's made a few of those, but the most telling one might be Mahomes targeting him during blitz period.
Yeah, I mean,
so you need that rapport, There's a
couple of players on these lists that are, having really good training camps. On the other hand, you sort of look at the rest of the receiving core, and you're like, well, it kind of makes sense they'd be getting a lot of looks, right? Guys are injured, guys are missing time, whatever. So there's a bit of that, I think, with Chiefs camp, with Cyrus Allen, where, look, he's made that spectacular catch. He's made a few other spectacular catches. He's making plays, but you've got Rashee Rice working his way back from a knee injury. You got Xavier Worthy got banged up early. Like, the receiving core is very banged up and not what it should be. And so there are opportunities to go around for a guy like Cyrus Allen. And maybe that's necessary for a guy, drafted lower down. You need the kind of pathway to open up for them to show what they could do. But yeah, he's looked really good. There's another play where it's like, this team period, and they go to Cyrus Allen. It's like, yeah, because he was the guy covered by Nick Bolton. It's like, now look, he made the adjustment
on the scramble drill. Yeah,
but it's like, I would also throw at the wide receiver covered by Nick Bolton. We've
got to give a shout out to our 33rd team colleague here, Tyrann Mathieu, in the Bayou, In the Bayou with Tyrann Mathieu show. Go check it out wherever you listen to your podcast or watch us. He was checking out Chiefs camp, of course, former Chief. And he said, if you check out their Twitter account, he said, of Cyrus Allen, he's taking it by storm, bro. Like Pat Mahomes loves him. Coaches love him. Me and him had a bunch of conversations, and he asked all the right questions.
Nice.
End quote. Tyrann Mathieu, big fan of Cyrus Allen. So he went down there to see what it was all about and came back very impressed.
He also, Allen, he did it sort of before and after injury scare, which I think is probably a good thing. Like sometimes you can just catch fire and have a really good, strong run and then kind of fade off a little bit. But he was amazing. Everyone was talking him up. Then he had that injury scare. It's like, oh, no, we've been robbed before he even saw it. Then he came back, picked up exactly where he left off. So, yeah, the Cyrus Allen thing may well be real.
As far as what it means for the Chiefs, too, I think if you have Rashee Rice, who, there's the over-analysis of training camp stuff is hilarious, especially individual routes or whatever. But we've seen Rashee Rice play football. He's good in the slot. He's good after the catch. Like he does what he does well within the Chiefs offense. Xavier Worthy has had to he had to do so much of the underneath stuff and be on the same page as Mahomes and kind of be the go-to guy at various points last season. Well, if Cyrus Allen is that guy, he's the blitz answer. He can play outside, play in the slot. Anything that frees Worthy up to be more of a vertical threat and Tyquan Thornton to be the vertical threat, I think you're starting to come to, like, Cyrus Allen's got a big role. If the hype is real for him, if he's legit, it's a big role to help this Chiefs offense. Because then I think you're rolling 4 deep at receiver and slightly different skill sets, but most importantly, you let those speed receivers be the outside speed receivers. Tyquan Thornton was open 3 or 4 times behind the defense per game last year. So they've got some big playability, but Cyrus Allen and Rashee Rice work in the middle of the field with Travis Kelce. I think it helps a lot in Kansas City.
Definitely. Yeah. I think he's one of the ones where the training camp hype is most notable based off evidence so far.
So we're just going in a random list here.
Yeah, that's what we do best. Random ass lists.
Kaleb Downs.
Yeah, this is the one that I am most trying to keep my feet on the ground and not get overexcited by. It's like, okay, look, backs up the Priors 100%, but be careful. It's still only training camp, you know? Maybe it's just good. But, like, what if Kaleb Downs is the player that he was in college? Like, that's the only question I'm asking, right? What if the guy who was the best player on defense in the entire nation, basically for the entirety of his career, is that same force at the NFL level, and they're already using him? They're putting him in the slot, manning him up one-on-one with CeeDee Lamb, and he's winning.
If you're watching on YouTube, obviously we're live on YouTube. If you're in podcast land, you're not able to see it, but go check us out on YouTube. You get extra perks here, like watching the videos. And the 2 clips that we posted are him with, was the first one CeeDee Lamb as well? The second one is one-on-one against CeeDee Lamb in the slot. The first one, it looked,
from the other angle of the second one, I think may well have been pass interference, but whatever.
No, I don't think so. Pass breakup.
He got there early, but still.
The first one, it looked like he's probably playing quarters and he's got to read a 2-way go and he breaks on it. I mean, we're talking 2 very difficult roles here. And here's where my pattern matching will go. The entire draft process, we talked about Kaleb Downs as an elite safety prospect. I won't use the word generational because the elite safety prospects of the last 10 years include Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, and my pattern matching goes to Derwin James. And remember the number of times we watched training camp in Derwin James, who's a safety, and I'm saying his name this year. See how it goes. He's a safety, and he'd be one-on-one with Keenan Allen and receivers on the outside. He's not even a corner, even though I did think for years, I'm like, man, Derwin.
Yeah.
If Derwin.
And they're using the slot now.
Oh, no, but like, could Derwin have played outside corner? Yeah. Could he have played edge rusher? Like, there's not a lot of safeties who could literally play a D-line position, safety, and corner. I think Derwin could have done it. So the similarities I'm seeing of being able to at least hold your own, PI or not, hold your own against CeeDee Lamb.
It's close enough that it's still a good play.
In the slot. It looked like a great play to me. But it's really impressive.
But the point is, these are expanded things that weren't even on the plus list necessarily coming into the NFL on tape, right? Like, he did a lot of things in college and did a lot of things well, but you wouldn't have listed that. Like, could go into the slot and man up against CeeDee Lamb. Would not have been on your list of positives necessarily for Kaleb Downs going into the draft, right? And you were still saying this guy is maybe the best player in the draft or one of the best players in the draft, and the only reason we're dinging him is because he's a safety. Like, the fact that you've then added, like, the Cowboys have looked at this guy and gone, yeah, I mean, he's amazing at all this other stuff. He's also good enough that he can just play in the slot and cover CeeDee Lamb, right? The fact that they've even identified that as a potential thing that he could do, and then you get the tape of him doing it and winning against one of the best receivers in the NFL is huge. Like, I keep wanting to sort of think, like, the only reason this guy's been dinged in the draft is because he's, 5'11" and 200 pounds. But, like, all those guys fell. Derwin.
Someone saying we said Kaleb Downs is more like Ed Reed, that he'd be Ed Reed. There's no way we ever made that comparison. No.
Not something.
Because every time we talked about Downs, we talked about the ability to play the run, play in the box, maybe play nickel. Nickel where Eamon Warry's like this pterodactyl playing nickel and Downs has a different body type but could do it.
You said, somebody said, Lucrative said, and Lucrative has a creative relationship with the truth.
He makes up some stuff.
With things that happened and were said.
You called Downs Ed Reed, he said.
I simply did not.
That must have been some other Irishman
saying
that.
He has receipts. I will take those receipts because that's not something that ever came out of my mouth.
Please submit your receipts.
There's a fairly good chance that I said, from a size perspective, he's more Ed Reed, but there's just no way that I said he is Ed Reed.
At no place.
Just absolutely
at no point.
No way. I will, I've made a lot of mistakes and goofs when it comes to draft eval, but I have screwed up so many times that I am way too careful with what I say to be like, this guy is the next Ed Reed.
The only person I think we'd ever make Ed Reed comparisons would be Earl Thomas, right? Because they're the only
stylistically. Yeah.
Stylistically, right?
And even then, I didn't think Earl Thomas was anywhere near as good as Ed Reed. Anyway,
yeah.
Point being, these are he's added stuff to the already ridiculous plus lists. My point was, I keep wanting to think that he only got dinged because of size, but like Derwin James, Kyle Hamilton, et cetera, slid as well. Like the league just doesn't value safeties as much as maybe it should if the guy is elite. Point is, so far in training camp, and it's only early, you are left with the inevitable question of, what if Caleb Downs is every bit as good as he was in college?
We asked that same question. Would you take – because the only reason why you compare to Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James, and again, repeating, and Nick Eamon-Warry just had this season where it's like, okay, that's what you need in the NFL, and he was on the team that went to the Super Bowl. All those guys are bigger, longer. They're different body types where that probably helps them a lot. Like it helps – Kyle Hamilton's size, Derwin's size, Eamon-Warry's size helps them when they do step in to that nickel spot and they play linebacker like run defense. Downs doesn't have that level of size, but he has that level of ability, and he can get that type of result. So we were asking that question. If you knew you were getting Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James and everything from a production standpoint looked exactly like those guys profile-wise, if you knew you were getting those guys, would you take them top 5? Would you take them top 10? And then especially in this draft where the pivot point was 2, maybe 3 because David Bailey was the right guy at 2. The pivot point was pretty quickly. We were talking about, is Arizona at 3 in play for Caleb Downs? Are the Giants at 5 in play for Caleb Downs? The other storyline coming out of this that I think is going to be fun to watch, the Bengals at 10 were very much linked to either, the best defensive lineman available, or do they just take Caleb Downs? Do they finally attack this safety problem that they've had since Jesse Bates went out the door and do it with somewhat local guy, coming from Ohio State and, plug and play, excellent player. And they said, we're not even going to play that game. We're going to go get Dexter Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And the reports coming out of camp that Dexter Lawrence, they're thrilled with Dexter Lawrence. He's tearing it up.
Yeah.
But it's still like I think the most interesting draft what ifs are going to be teams that passed on Caleb Downs and passed on Reuben Bain. So we'll see. It's very early, but Downs might be as advertised.
Yeah. And if he is, there's a very good chance that he's the best football player in this draft.
Yeah, like he was in college.
Correct.
Malachi Fields, again, wide receiver from the Giants, a third-round pick, big-bodied receiver. Is there some? The Giants are. We'll tell our Giant story here.
Yeah.
There's no footage.
No.
Coming out of Giants camp.
Giants are very militant when it comes to preventing training camp footage reach anywhere. They don't allow journalists to record, and they don't allow fans to record, which is rare. It's work for them. I saw an interview with somebody recently. The guy, I forget who he was. He used to be with the Cowboys, but he was like, "Yeah, my job used to be trawling social media for training camp footage that might be able to help us." That's like, yeah. That unfortunately, annoyingly, there's a reason the teams should not want this stuff out, but it makes it worse for everybody else who just wants to see the clips.
My next question is always, how much does that actually help?
It's all incremental edges, but point being, there's a reason the Giants don't do it.
They don't.
That means we don't have a lot of footage of Malachi Fields looking good.
And this is why we haven't taken a ton of training camp tours. This was 10 years ago now this year that we did the tour.
Yeah.
But we could tell stories from it still. Like when we were there, we were like on the rope, couldn't take a step beyond.
The most military precision policing of a training camp was done by the Giants.
Frank,
who made, I don't think his name was Frank, but
we called him Frank.
Called him Frank. In his hat, in his straw hat and his mustache. So he had you don't even think about going beyond this line. And if you so much as pull out a phone, I'll.
It went from we thought he was being a little combative by the end, we were buddies.
Yeah.
I think we ate lunch with him.
Right.
We went down to the lunchroom and ate with him and everything. And he'd been doing it for years. Like, they got that thing on lockdown. So we got no footage of Fields. But
but all the reports are.
Reports are good.
Having a great training camp. And again, that would be a notable one because mid-round pick, third-round pick.
Yeah.
But so a couple of reasons. Number one, he's the guy that made the best catch of the Senior Bowl that week. Looked spectacular there. Number two, he was the guy the Giants traded up in the third round to get and gave up a future pick. So that was one of the 3 trades, I think, that happened in the entire draft in which a team gave up a next year's draft pick to make happen, right? So not only did they trade up to get him, which is obviously an indication that they like him, but they were willing to give up a 2027 draft pick, which basically nobody was doing in this draft. Like, that's a real statement of they liked this guy. And for then independently, like, journalists are the ones making this, not the Giants. For then a bunch of journalists to be like, yeah, Malachi Fields is looking like, like he's going to nail down that number 2 spot opposite
Malik
Neighbors. That's all good.
It is a huge development for the Giants because of the opportunity there. His signature play is similar to Jacoby Lane. It's combat catches, going up and get it, high point in the ball. I remember thinking he looks like he plays at about a 4.6. He ran a 4.61. I mean, that's what he is.
But I do think that his usage at Notre Dame played into that a bit. Like, I actually think I think his route tree there kind of limited him to the point where DBs didn't have to worry about a bunch of stuff. And the fewer things you have to worry about, the easier it is to stick to a guy. I do think that Malachi Fields might actually be able to separate better at the next level when he's threatening more things than he did at college at Notre Dame. So I'm curious to see, like, if that's all true, if Malachi Fields is winning a starting job and is going to be a big part of this offense, I'm kind of curious to see, with a broader route tree and a broader range of threats he can bring to the table, does he start to look like he separates better than he did in college?
I was just thinking out loud here. Can we get that Mike MacDonald footage for later in the show? Sorry.
Which footage?
He was kicking Derek Hall out of practice.
Yeah, shouting at Derek Hall.
Showing at Derek Hall. Yeah. That was good stuff. I don't know if we could dig
that was way better than the little heart-to-heart he had with Nick Emanwari in the first episode.
I missed that one. I saw him talking to the Spurs guys.
My favorite part about that, though, was him. The basic premise of his message was, don't worry about the outside noise. It's all just the people whose opinions don't matter. You see that quote over there from Rex Ryan, something he shouted about me from 5 years ago? It's like, hang on here. If we don't care about the outside noise, why have you got like a Post-it note from Rex Ryan, some random-ass stupid segment that he said in TV 6 years ago? Like, these are not, congruent messages. These are a little bit contradictory.
Everybody, say it with me, needs a chip on their shoulder.
Right, and I'm not criticizing that. Again, one of my favorite humans of all time is Roy Keane, who's like an Olympic caliber grudge holder. I have a huge amount of time for people that do that, but don't lie about it. Don't tell me.
I don't
pay any attention to the outside noise. You've got a Post-it note over there on your desk.
I could probably get Mike on the show to talk about it.
Yeah,
we'll ask him.
Let's do it.
I could probably get
Mike. Why are you lying to the people?
I met Mike years ago when he was just like assistant linebacker coach or whatever.
I think the overall picture. I mean,
you were there, right? You were there.
Yeah,
right? Me, you, and Ben.
We're going to have an interesting discussion with a Seahawks specific person on tomorrow's show. But this is the rule: you don't say who it is in case it falls through, and the whole thing's anyway. And I do think that the overall picture of him on Hard Knocks will be a positive one. Like, I think he's going to end up coming out of that very well.
We're in a world where authenticity sells. He is very authentic with everything. I think he's got a good combination, MacDonald, football acumen, obviously, but, bring people down when they're too high, bring them up when they're too low, psychology. I think he does a lot of that stuff really well, and that's the type of stuff we have no idea.
Right. Nobody does.
Until John Schneider probably had an idea when he was hiring him and everything, but he may not have even been the first choice. We don't remember. We don't know.
But even then, that stuff's kind of guesswork, right? Because it's like you don't really get to see that until it presents itself as an opportunity, and they're like, all right, go to work.
When Ben Johnson and Mike MacDonald are head coach candidates, it's like, well, I've seen them call plays. They're probably good. I can look at a macro level and say this offense got better with Ben Johnson, this defense got better with Mike MacDonald. I have no idea how they're going to actually handle the humans in the building and be the leader and everything. It looks like MacDonald has done a great job there as well. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl, so must have done a good job. Couple linebackers to highlight here. Rookie linebackers, may have mentioned them both on the other show as well, but Josiah Trotter from the Bucs. We have Todd Bowles saying he's a new school linebacker in an old school body. Now, I saw a little old school linebacker to him on film. He feels like the guy that might stand out at camp as well. Not that you can hit that hard, but I mean, he packs a punch. There's at least one video out there of him laying the wood, but it's a big development for the Bucs because you put him and Alex Anzalone next to each other. Linebacker was a big weakness last year as Levante David got a little bit older, and then the other spot, Savasier Dennis, really struggled in coverage.
It's also not, it's not that old school a body. Like, for example, Jeremiah Trotter, that's an old school body type, Jeremiah Trotter was like 6'1", 260. Josiah Trotter, similar height, but like 230 something,
I thought he was at least 240.
It's a little, it's not quite old school.
I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was tearing. Yeah, he's 6'2", 237. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. may have been getting some hype, unless somebody misspoke.
It's more old school than these linebackers that are like 215 or whatever. But it's not. Let's remember, Jeremiah Trotter was a 260-pound linebacker, and he wasn't even the biggest linebacker back in the day.
Trotter's interesting because all of his production numbers. I do something with so I don't think tackles as a whole are a great number. I like tackle percentage, though. Percentage of the tackles you made as a percentage of snaps. He was really high in that. Tackle for loss, no gain rate, run stop percentage, pass rush win rate. He was really good at everything besides coverage. But the coverage stuff, oftentimes when you're talking about draft, college translation to the NFL, that can be, is it scheme? Was it identified properly? There were definitely times he looked completely lost in space, but it does feel like he could make an immediate impact in and around the line of scrimmage.
And again, the opportunity is there for him to win, plenty of reps and plenty of snaps on the NFL field this year as a rookie. So that's always good. The way society generally is on this sort of comedy purge of like we're about to reinvent cable and act like it's progress. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's basically the world right now, is we're just reinventing technologies from 30 years ago and be like, we nailed it. You are on this fascinating journey of football discovery where you're just like rediscovering things, and you're reconfirming that like what dinosaurs thought back in like the 1980s is actually right all along. And we just did this detour for analytics and went in a little loop of saying, a bunch of stuff doesn't matter. It turns out it probably does. I just thought you were about to conclude because you're like, actually, I think there's some kind of signal in QB wins. I wonder. I thought you were going to be like,
there is over time.
You know what? It turns out tackles is a great data point.
No, I was not going all the way back to that.
Turns out the more tackles you make, the better.
I said if you're going to use that next to 10 other data points, do it as a percentage instead of a total.
I run the numbers, and it turns out London Fletcher's the best linebacker that's ever played the game.
I will say our analytics nerds friends seem to be like, what's the meme where you've got like the, here's what it is, and then it changes, and then it's like it's always the same thing the whole time. It's like, oh, no.
The bell curve thing.
Yeah, the bell curve thing. Or it's like, no, you got to use all, you can't just use one number. And then it's like, you got to use all the numbers. And then they're all like, you only look at this one number. Like, our analytics friends are just, this is the one number.
Yeah.
Pressure to sack rate. It's the only thing that matters. Like, you're just in this quest to find this one number. Only use the EPA is the only thing that matters. Just EPA. That's it. What? No. That's not how. That's not what your quest was supposed to be to improve football. Kaleb Elarms-Orr, 4th-round pick for the Buffalo Bills at linebacker. There's a video of him running step for step with James Cook.
There is.
Down the field. Very athletic.
That looked very impressive.
Linebacker that, again, I think picking some of these players, it's like, okay, there's a path here, right? Matt Milano had been the guy for years in Buffalo that could cover running backs and be athletic and be the leader of the defense. They need athleticism at the second level, and he looks like he's adding that right now so far in training camp.
I think, honestly, that might be the trend when it comes to identifying these guys is almost everybody we're talking about there's a pathway to the field for them,
Yeah.
right? And maybe that, and not just field, but like practice reps. And maybe that's part of this whole thing, is that in order to show really well in training camp, in order to be the guy that looks different than the evaluation was, et cetera, something needs to happen on the depth chart where you have a pathway to playing time. And then you can, like, again, it's kind of like, did the team fail you or you fail the team? How many guys would actually look really good if they simply, like, if 3 people ahead of them on the depth chart fell over and they got a ton of reps for a while? It's like, are we missing a massive development gap in NFL players simply because they never see the field with the ones?
I'm going to lump up. We've talked about Denzel Boston a little bit with the Browns. He was running with the ones and everything. So I'm hearing way more hype on Denzel Boston than Casey Concepcion.
Yeah, and I wanted to, I mean, Ben Solak was on a little training camp tour of ESPN, and he had a tweet about Denzel Boston. I mean, his takeaway was basically Denzel Boston was the talk of camp, blah, blah, blah. But his tweet, I think, was worth putting up there because it's Cleveland takeaways. And then a bunch of bullet points. Denzel Boston, rookie wide receiver Denzel Boston, Browns' second-round draft pick Denzel Boston, number 12 for the Browns, the wideout, Boston, the kid from Washington, that big rookie receiver, Boston, Denzel Boston. So evidently Solak was quite taken with Denzel Boston.
He's pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with the Denzel Boston buzz coming from Solak.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Spencer Fano quickly here. I've seen a little bit more. So you've got, remember, Fano was the first-round pick for the Browns, then Casey Concepcion, the second first-rounder, then Boston was a second-rounder, and Spencer Fano for the Browns getting into fights with Jared Verse. I think there may have been some questions about, I hate using the word finesse for offensive linemen, but, he's like a light-footed, lighter, short-armed offensive tackle. He's not your big, mauling, bruising run blocker, but he's more of a good, zone block type. He's going toe-to-toe with Jared Verse, not only rep-wise, but fighting him, getting after him a little bit, showing some of that tenacity. I think that's a good development for the Browns and Fano.
Yes, it is. Love it. Guys already jawing with the best defensive lineman that the other team or the other side has, the defense has, showing that he's not just a finesse player, that he's got the dog in him. Love it. Let's go.
Now, early in camp, Fano and DeJuan Jones were rotating at left tackle. I don't know if that's a bit of a slow start. I mean, they drafted him to step in at left tackle, so I don't know if there's signal there, but some of the practice reps, he'll lose at times too, but some of the practice reps, I think, encouraging for Fano.
Mm-hmm.
Out for the Browns. I'm going to lump the 4 Jets players in together here.
Lump them in.
David Bailey.
Yep.
Getting a ton of hype. Now you have Kenyon Sadiq, though, the second first-round pick, dealing with a hernia, so he's a little bit.
He's been hurt.
He's got a setback. There was a report that Omar Cooper Jr. might be losing his status on the depth chart.
I only saw one report, and it was relevant to another receiver playing well and maybe jumping him.
Okay.
But I will say, so we've talked about this before. It is fascinating, the contradictory reports from people watching the same thing.
I know.
I had a tweet yesterday that I quote tweeted because it was about Kyle Williams, the Patriots' second-year receiver. It was basically like Kyle Williams has done nothing, doesn't running with the twos the entire time, doesn't make even any plays with the twos, right? And you're like, oof. So yeah, Chad Graff. Kyle Williams spends most practices with the second-team offense and doesn't often stand out per Chad Graff, right? So I quote tweeted that. I was like, oof, that's not good. And then I had multiple people reply. So Evan Lazar had a tweet about Kyle Williams making plays. Somebody else, there were multiple other Patriots beat reporters. Here we go. Taylor Kyles, for what it's worth, Kyle Williams has made at least one standout play in most practices, even if his play-to-play consistency could stand to improve. So it's like you're just watching totally different things.
Which one's
true?
Yeah,
one beat reporter's like, this guy's doing nothing ever. And the other guy's like, every single practice, the guy's making at least one play. Okay, it's inconsistent, but he's out here making some plays. You're like, I don't. So I'm now of the opinion that you need at least 2 sources at any time to make any kind of conclusive thing. So if one guy's being like...
So you got 2 out of 3 there going on the...
Right, but my point being, if it's one guy being like Omar Cooper Jr. may be losing his job to somebody else, I don't care. If it's multiple people, fair enough.
You also have, just on Stribling, somebody saying he's the best receiver on the 49ers.
Well, a lot of people, though, have been talking, this is the thing, multiple reports on Stribling. Now, again, part of that is the substation has taken out the entire receiving corps. So at times, Stribling's basically been the only man standing. And you're like, well, yeah, again, the pathway's there for him to look good. But
not going to him yet, really.
Almost unique, or almost not unique, almost universal reports that he's been looking good.
To follow up on the Kyle Williams thing, like, of course he's not going to take a ton of first-team reps as long as A.J. Brown.
No, it was more that he's not
Dobbs.
even standing out with the twos, I think
Okay.
was the point.
The last person I want, like right now with the Jets, D'Angelo Pons is also sitting out practice at the moment. So him, like as you know, in real time right now. So Pons is on the side working out. Kenyon Sadiq's on the side working out. Omar Cooper Jr. He made a couple catches the other day in their joint practice, I believe. But they're like, this is my draft class. Hanging my hat on this Jets draft class, dominating. Bailey looks great. I will advise all of our viewers. There was one. I know Bailey's had a ton of hype, and he's looked great, and he's so fast, and that's his game. But he had the one play where it was like that I quote tweeted, where it was like David Bailey unblocked for a sack of Geno Smith, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a David Bailey tweet. That's the offensive line, or if he's coming unblocked, that's not a Bailey thing. That's something's going wrong over there. And I hate to, and I'm going to do this this is just PSAs. I know that our listeners don't do this. The guy that responded with this response to that, there's no way he listens to our show. He's too dumb to listen to our show, right? So the original tweet was Bailey comes unblocked for a sack. And I'm like, well, that tweet's not about David Bailey, right? Mm-hmm. If he's unblocked. And somebody said, are you saying that Armand Membu sucks? Use your brain. Like, nope. It's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thought.
Right. There's no nuance in human thought anymore. It's all polarized. Like I had this thing with the Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes all decade thing. It's like we have to be able to do better than I'm saying this is not the case. Oh, so you're saying that doesn't matter at all? No. There's a middle ground, and it's quite large there. Like, we've got to be able to do better than going from one extreme to the exact opposite if you don't agree with this one extreme. Like, come on, humans. We're better than that. We are. Almost all of us are better than that.
Yes. The conclusion, I'm amazed by the number of conclusions you have to jump to, that it's like you're assuming that Bailey's lined up on that side, that he somehow beat Membu, and that I'm calling out the right tackle for this.
But
there's something wrong with the pass protection there, because Bailey should be blocked by somebody.
Right. I was basically saying two first-team All-Pro awards in a decade doesn't mean you're automatically the All-Decade quarterback, right? So, and multiple people were like, "Oh, so suddenly All-Pros don't matter?" No, they're just not the only thing. What are you talking about? Like, again, there's a middle ground, and it's pretty big.
And we're usually sitting in the middle.
Don't you love it, though? My favorite one, though, is when a guy comes back with something that's actually just factually wrong. And they're like, so this guy comes back and he goes.
Like when Lucrative comes back and tries to, when he finds the receipts saying that you said that
but
Caleb
this guy
Downs
comes
equals
back and
Ed
he's
Reed.
like, you can't make the All-Decade team without being first-team All-Pro at any point in the decade. Like, you say that, and yet here's John Elway with the All-Decade of the 90s. Didn't get a single All-Pro. Didn't get a single first-team All-Pro in the 1990s.
He got All-Decade in the 90s?
Yep.
Over Favre?
Over everybody. Favre was second team, I think. But yes.
I thought that would have been Favre.
No. So John Elway got it. Not one single first-team All-Pro during the 1990s. Like, so you say that, and yet here it is. It's already happened. And that was over a 10-year period, not a 6-year period that we've currently had.
Favre
you know what I mean?
Steve Young have a
Steve Young was like 3 consecutive first-team All-Pro, like 92, 3, and 4, whatever was all Steve Young. Elway didn't get one, but he finished the decade with back-to-back Super Bowls. So that whoever does these things are like, it feels like he's the guy.
He went out on top, too.
Who was the story of the 1990s? Well, based off the last 5 minutes, it was John Elway.
Can't tell the story without John Elway, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the Jets, I'm not ready to sour on their class yet. I'm just saying, like
they're all hurt is the problem.
Yeah, they're all they're getting a slow start, which is unfortunate. I wanted to at least mention, speaking of hurt, Mansour Delane for the Chiefs. Every video that I see when he's actually played football looks pretty good. He's breaking up passes and looking really good, but he's been slow, shoulder injury.
And even in those videos, he's wearing the yellow non-contact practice jersey.
So I think he's only doing maybe 7-on-7s and not. I don't know if he's full go, but he's been battling the shoulder injury. Like Spags is over there talking like, man, he's not. He's not ready.
Yeah.
He's not. Will he ever be ready? Will the guy even play football? There's a little bit of coach speak there. But when we've seen clips of Mansour Delane, he's looked as advertised from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Running back Jadarian Price, first rounder for the Seattle Seahawks, getting a lot of hype in the pass game.
Yep.
There was a quote from MacDonald on Hard Knocks saying, quote, "Nobody's covered him yet," end quote.
Yeah, there was a little montage on the first episode of Hard Knocks that really talked him up in that area and showed some really nice plays that he's been making. So that would be big for him. I think they'll need to lean on him anyway to start the season just because of Charbonnet's injury, et cetera. But if he's an immediate factor in the pass game, I mean, that's a big role that he has this season.
Yeah, running back pass game is always difficult to project in the coming out of the draft because it's tough to see sometimes. Like,
right.
We had no problem with Christian McCaffrey because Stanford targeted him and you watched him run routes all the time. Sometimes guys only have a handful of targets. You have no idea what they can do, or the offense just doesn't feature that. So that's always an unknown, I think, for not every running back, but certain running backs when they lack opportunity coming out of the draft. Just a little note for future aspiring draft nicks. Don't just because a guy hasn't had an opportunity to do it doesn't mean he can't when you project him to the NFL. We've got hype from, let me jump down to, let's go Cashius Howell.
Yeah. It's another one that I'm kind of excited by because, priors and all that. He's made a bunch of plays, and there's some plays on film of him using the power, which is not what he's known for.
I can't believe Eli didn't pull a picture of him bull rushing.
You would have thought he'd had that on speed dial already, but no. Now, again,
did you reenact it, Eli, maybe?
There are those questions of was that a David Bailey tweet or was that a, hey, why was he unblocked on the play? Is that a Cashius Howell tweet or is that an Orlando Brown Jr. may not be good anymore tweet? But there's a play of him basically running through Orlando Brown Jr. and almost launching the left tackle at Joe Burrow's feet. He looks good.
He is Cashius Howell and Reuben Bain. They are carrying the torch.
I will say, reportedly, because the Cincinnati Bengals have yet to pick up the phone to us.
Yeah, I won't be able to see it in person. You won't be able to see it in person.
No.
We will be contacting our friends with the Bears to see if we can get into the Bears-Bengals joint practice.
It would be a great bit if we were just able to consistently make Bengals practice via other teams.
That's what so if we make it into the joint practice, it's next Thursday. We make it into the joint practice for the Bears-Bengals through the Bears.
Right.
And then we go up. You go up to Emily and say, hey.
Like in person. Be like, hey, I'm at Bengals training camp. Yeah. I had to get in via another team again. Is there any chance that you guys...
They think I'm viable.
I live there. Is there any chance that you guys could, just give me the damn press credential, please?
They respect my Associated Press credentials.
That's true. Maybe I can wear the press hat, maybe she'll see in person. It's undeniable at that point. Like if I'm standing in front of her with a fedora,
this is the content people want. You're wearing that hat.
I'm just sitting here, right? If I walk up to Emily like this and be like, "Hey,"
you are absolutely wearing that to practice next week if we get in. Yes.
Is it possible that I could be handed some press credentials for the Bengals training camp on account of being Associated Press?
Yes, Scott. We are in Cincinnati. The practice facility is 5 minutes yonder.
It's practically visible from the window.
Right there. We've been to many practices, but only while members of PFF because Chris owned it.
And even that required phone calls from Chris. Like Chris is a guy who's a Bengals legend to the point where they cart him around in a golf cart when he rocks up, right? And it required him having a 5-minute conversation with somebody to get us in the door.
And then we were just on the list in perpetuity.
For a while,
which was funny.
Until they obviously moved to a more sophisticated
PFF
system.
perpetuity.
Yeah, true. Maybe we're still on the list.
The developments for Cashius Howell. So first off, there's two things I'll be keeping an eye on here. If he and Reuben Bain have success, we know that
arm length doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, much like there was a tipping point for shorter quarterbacks, and whether you say, well, Drew Brees opened the door or Russell Wilson opened the door, all of a sudden, Baker Mayfield's getting drafted, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, and it's all right, we're okay with shorter quarterbacks now. This might be significant in draft circles here.
Well, it might be the
if
same.
Cashius Howell and Reuben Bain have success for the short-armed pass rusher.
It might be the same as what we were talking about, which is it's not that there's nothing to it. It means that those guys have to develop a way of playing around the arm length thing, the way that quarterbacks have to develop a way of playing around being 5'10". But if they do that, and maybe it's easier for short-armed pass rushers to do that in 2026 than it is for quarterbacks to do it with the height thing in 2026. But maybe those guys, I mean, Bain, I would think, is the easiest argument. Like, he's already shown he's able to do that, right? And has done it really well. But if those guys are able to do that, you know, it's not that arm length doesn't matter, but they've already shown they can kind of get around that by the way they play.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both, I mean, I think they're both going to be really good, but we'll be keeping an eye on them. We'll be keeping an eye on them. You wrote down Sonny Styles here. I haven't seen the Sonny Styles.
Oh, dude, yeah. There's been hype for Sonny Styles. He looks good. He looks huge. Like, there's an old school throwback linebacker body style for you. Yeah, he looks like a beast for Washington.
Carnell Tate, wide receiver for the Titans.
Basically nothing but consistent positivity, except the one guy, and I think it was that guy, was it Grant Cohn for the 49ers? It was like Stribling. Somebody outplayed
Cohn had
Carnell
Stribling
Tate.
as the best wide receiver.
I think that was it, yeah.
Niners.
So basically everybody's been
Look at
talking up
Carnell
Carnell
Tate
Tate consistently throughout the entirety of training camp, except the one time they played with the 49ers and Grant Cohn said Stribling was better.
I would say, I mean, when I saw Tate, I've seen a lot of red zone fades. And when I was there, he had a lot of some battles with Alante Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't winning all of them, but he had the one-handed catch in their scrimmage, and he's made some of those combat contested catches, and everyone else is hyping him up. They're also hyping up Malachi Manor there. Like, there might be a sneaky good Titans receiving core here.
I'm still loving my supersized Devontae Smith comp for him. I just think it works.
Yeah,
he just looks like Devontae Smith, but
that
bigger.
might be good. Jermaine Burton, but
not crazy.
Not crazy.
Yeah.
That was my note.
It's good. Yeah.
Similar feels as when I watched Jermaine Burton, but without the every caveat of no one trusts this guy.
Watch his tape.
How about Jake Golday?
So I did some research. I got local hotshot beat reporter Matthew Collar from Purple Insider. I was like, give me the lowdown on Jake Golday.
Put the press hat on when you say that. That's good press work. That's good press work. You got the information.
Sources indicate, and the source being Matthew Collar.
You're not supposed to really say who, but
no, it's okay. It's on the record.
Oh, it's on the okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's on the record sourcing.
You're good.
He's been getting more and more playing time at inside linebacker, but also been getting reps at outside linebacker, mixing it with the first team sometimes. They rave about his IQ and his preparation. Size and movement skill is unique. Best way I describe him is fitting perfectly with Flores, not out of place at all. There were reports prior to Collar who had said that he'd gone away and based between, the rookie minicamp faff that happens before and then actual training camp, and he'd basically studied Flores' defense for the last couple of years and learned every linebacker position. So not just inside, he'd learned the outside pass rushing stuff as well. And so when they rocked up, we're like, hey, you want to take some reps at outside linebacker? It's like, oh yeah, ready to go. Learned it already. And so, yeah, apparently Jake Golday has looked fantastic.
Good work.
But Collar then, unprompted, replied back saying, the Vikings camp star as a rookie, though, has been Chuck Demings. Remember when we did this before, it was the day after Chuck Demings had a great practice, and so a bunch of people were like, Chuck Demings has been great. And I couldn't work out if he'd been great before the great practice or it was just recency bias hammering me. But Collar says it's definitely real. He's been a pass breakup monster and has matched up with Jefferson and Addison a lot and has held his own. He's a freaky athlete and ultra competitive. Stephen F. Austin apparently just produces stars.
They do.
Everybody knows this.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it's huge. What does it mean? I mean, we didn't love the Vikings draft. We liked Golday coming out. We didn't know enough about – Demings was always like a kind of a long athletic project at corner, like some others that have hit in recent years, like a Zion McCollum or whatever. If he hits early, massive for the Vikings at corner. And then Golday, shout out to our friend Mike Renner. Of course, he was early in on Golday.
Yeah,
as a day 2 pick in Cincinnati.
Collar also says we're still pretty limited in terms of Caleb Banks' evidence. He's only getting a few reps. We're not, we're still way behind the 8 ball there.
So good stuff on Golday. Good.
So a lot of, but it is interesting that the best draft the Vikings may have had in years may end up coming from the year where they didn't have a general manager. They packed him off before the draft. And again, if my interpretation of events, that the draft was basically Flores with the phone and a chair and a whip and just making all the picks that he wanted, and it turns out they're all amazing, that would be great.
You're just going to keep that
Well,
caricature
I'm going to keep it until somebody prove me wrong.
Caller hasn't disputed it.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's disputed it. Prove me wrong, and I'll back off the metaphor. Until then, that's how it went down.
All right, a couple more to discuss here. You wrote down Drew Allar and all. So Stribling, we mentioned. Grant Cohn, has called him the best receiver at camp.
Yes.
Now I saw somebody respond and say we've got some ice cold takes from you from previous years. We don't really trust what you see. I mean, I don't know.
I will say, look, with the greatest of respect to Mr. Cohn, I wouldn't trust anything he said without verification. I will say, however, there's been pretty consistent reports that Stribling has looked really good. And we've said, it was a reach, I think, in the draft. However, it was a great fit. Stribling in this offense, I think, is a perfect fit for what they want to do. It makes sense that he looks good. Like, I'm fine with believing that he's having a really good camp.
And then you wrote down Drew Allar in all caps.
Yeah. People have been talking up Drew Allar a lot. And apparently we're going to see a lot of him in this preseason game. I think they're basically going to split the preseason almost entirely in half with Drew Allar.
Will Howard?
Yeah, and then Mason Rudolph will get like a couple of reps at the start. And
tomorrow night at 7.
Right, and Rodgers might not play.
Packers, Steelers. I have eyeballed the list for probably the most significant instant reaction opportunities for us. Mm-hmm. It involves, for preseason week 1, Packers, Steelers tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. So Drew Allar, if things go well for him and he backs up the hype, that'd be worth us reacting to. And then we have Carson Beck versus Fernando Mendoza, week 1. A battle of the first and third quarterbacks off the board.
And a national title repeat, right?
Yes, a rematch.
Yeah.
Last time they played, not Beck, but last time Fernando Mendoza played in a real football game, he was beating Carson Beck and his team. So we get that tomorrow night. Unfortunately, without our Cardinals announcer, retired. I will forever. It was just my favorite thing of that first Thursday.
The body announcers.
Yeah.
There's no more, at least in terms of announcing. Still alive.
He's still alive,
right.
But rest in peace from listening to him.
Right.
Call Arizona games.
See, that's a use for AI, right? Couldn't we just have whoever's calling the game in the voice of Jesse, the body announcer?
Yes. Oh man.
Like I'd watch that if there was a choice. This different streams or whatever. Like, what if you could just press a button and Kirk Herbstreit became somebody more interesting? Like, what if Kirk Herbstreit was now?
Don't attack Kirk.
What if Kirk Herbstreit was now David Attenborough? Press a button and you don't have to listen to Kirk anymore. David Attenborough is the color guy on this game. I'd listen to that.
I wonder if Kirk got the dog play from Claude or something.
No, it was I think he predated.
What if he was early in?
Anyway,
on the AI,
we talked about receivers earlier on that would send people back to the drawing board in terms of figuring out what the hell they were evaluating. Drew Allar working out would send a lot of people back to the drawing board and be like, "What?" Because he's the classic kind of big, toolsy, supposed to be great at college and then just never got any better. And if he suddenly comes into the NFL, they rework his mechanics on like a weekend, and now he's good.
Oh yeah, that'd be a thing.
Yeah,
he'd be opening the door once again for the 1990s 6'4", 230+ pound cannon-armed quarterback.
Right, and pave the way for a decade of awful players to come in and just be overdrafted because of it.
I'll say the difference between Drew Allar and Christian Hackenberg. People that I trust have liked Allar along the way. There were a few people who tried to say that they liked Hackenberg, and it's like there was never any. Poor Hack. It was never really that good on the field. Like there were flashes from Allar.
Yeah,
and the arm is legit, and there are some things.
He actually does have the tools that people tried to invent for Christian Hackenberg.
I'm just saying, if people bring up the Penn State connection or anything like that.
I've seen people, I think, try already to kind of redraw history and be like, Allar never had anything around him in terms of help. And that's not true. They did consistently try and bring in players. And at one point, he had Tyler Warren, who was amazing. it's not like, I mean,
he had Tyler Warren. They had the receivers that they had that year went and transferred to the SEC and were productive.
right, that's what
Harrison
I'm saying.
Wallace.
It's like they had these guys.
But then last year, sorry, really quick, the story last year at this time was like, man, Penn State, we went to the portal. We got the receivers. Right. We knew we upgraded. Didn't work.
Mm-hmm. So, like, the common thread here may be Allar, right? And then the other thing is, it's certainly nothing like it was for Drake May, say, in college, where, like, he legitimately doesn't have much help around him, right? Like, Allar had way more help than that.
May did. I mean, he had Josh Downs early, and then the final year he didn't really.
Yeah. So, like, the final year, nothing like the help that Allar had fairly consistently around him in terms of player talent. Anyway, so I'm not buying that. But, yeah, Allar showing up. Number one, it would be interesting for that reason that a lot of people would have to toss their entire process out the window when it comes to draft QBs and or just say, everyone misses every now and again. Let's hope it's an aberration. Also, would be really good for the Steelers, if they find a quarterback as 58-year-old Aaron Rodgers takes one last go-round. That would be good for them.
Really good. It's one of the things to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
Last player to list here from a rookie perspective. On the negative side, Makai Lemon, wide receiver for the Eagles. I'm not ready to give up on him, but he's been battling multiple hamstrings.
Well, he had or
hamstring injury multiple times.
Yes. He had, throughout basically every stage of the process, he's been dealing with a hamstring. So I think, again, the mini camps, rookie, blah, 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 I think he had a hamstring then, and now he's got one in training camp. I don't know if it's the same hamstring, but I
don't know what's happened to the chat, but your AI thing has people asking for Joey Styles to announce Monday Night Football.
I think I'm onto something here. I think
ECW
that's a good idea.
fame. So it's like a build your own adventure announcer.
Yeah. Like you could just press a button and tell it who you want to be announcing the game. Like you could have Joe Rogan calling football games, and all you get, no matter what play is made, it's like that's all that would happen.
Like Joey Styles. Styles on Monday Night Football for like a first down.
I think this is a great idea.
That's how Joe Tess used to do it, actually.
Can somebody, if you're a listener and you're running a network, hit me up. Now, there's some copyright problems we may run into, but still, I think we can roll for it, for a while until the lawsuits hit.
Choose your own adventure. All right, here's the deal. We're gonna we gotta do our FanDuel deal. We got a receiving yards future on some of these rookies, including Makai Lemon, who are like, I hope he can come back soon. I hate when guys get a slow start, and then you got to be ready for you're going to kick off the Bugler segment.
Yeah, there's a name we have yet to mention, and it's because we're going to give a legitimate old school news bulletin. I didn't get any music for it. They all kind of 1940s the news broadcast bulletin music, but
Emily might not buy it without the music.
It's true. Anyway, we'll be given an actual news bulletin.
I'm giving you a heads up. This is like a production meeting. Just be ready to go after I tell you
about
our friends over at FanDuel.
It's pretty easy.
Baseball fans, you think your nose hitting a homer today? Well, FanDuel's giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the actions, it's easy. You just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. And don't forget, you can make a free pick every day during the MLB season. Look, batting averages are low. They're low around the MLB right now. Nobody can hit for average, but they can hit homers, right? Everybody's trying to drop and drive. We're looking at exit velocities. We're looking at launch angle. Dudes are trying to hit home runs, and you benefit from the home runs that are being hit. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home for home runs. So you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com/33rd. That's FanDuel.com/33rd to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Must be 21 plus in select states for Kansas affiliation with Kin Star Casino, 18 plus in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867 in Louisiana. Today, Sam, we will talk rookie receiving futures, receiving yards here for some of these first-round rookies. Carnell Tate is over under 775.5. Jordan Tyson, 750.5. Did we not mention
No,
Tyson?
we haven't. We need to circle back on Tyson. He's definitely a hype merchant.
And then Makai Lemon at only 575 and a half. Now, my instinct on this is Lemon because I loved him. And the only thing there's two things keeping him low. Slow start to camp is probably knocking this down a touch. And this whole, will they pass enough with Jalen Hurts? Will they attack the middle? Will they play to Makai Lemon's strengths enough? 575 and a half, though. I mean, I'm kind of liking that as long as he's healthy.
I mean, sure. I think the obvious answer, though, is Carnell Tate still.
Like,
he's the number one receiver there. He's looked great. We are, I think, expecting some kind of jump from Cam Ward in year 2. Put all those things together, and you should have a receiver that's threatening 1,000 yards, let alone 775.
Why are people asking why we liked Lemon? Lemon is a great route runner. I think he got gloved a little bit by Leonard Moore, who's, I think, best cornerback prospect since
years. Yeah.
Who? We're going Derek Stingley.
Before that,
we're going Jalen. I think it's Jalen Ramsey and Patrick Peterson.
Best since Ramsey.
Yeah, and then if you were ranking Ramsey and Moore and Patrick Peterson, it's like might be more. I mean, he had a couple bad.
It's also not.
But he also there's a couple good reps in there. There's at least 2 where he absolutely smokes generational corner Leonard Moore.
And it's not in a role that he's probably going to be playing much of in the NFL. Like they're not going to expose him to that much. I wouldn't have thought.
That I can buy, Mohall, that he's not a good fit for Hurts, and I get it. Like we're talking about if you're taking the under because of that, I get it. I'm more answering someone else saying what did people like about Lemon. I loved his route running, had that dog in him at the catch point and everything. He was really good.
As long as his hamstrings get repaired, I think he's in good shape to have a productive season.
I'm with you on Carnell Tate though, and I was on with our friends Ramon and Will yesterday, and they said, "Is it too early to hype?" I said, "No." It's not too early to hype up Carnell Tate.
He's just good.
Get all the hype out of it. Before we get to the Bugler, though. So, FanDuel.com/33rd. Get in there.
You mentioned.
Do the homers.
You mentioned
check out the futures.
The bummer that is Makai Lemon's slow start. Eli Stowers. I've rarely heard a worse. Like, people have been out here tweeting, like, who are the negative reports on? Like, everyone's having the best camp of their life. Everyone's lighting it up. Where are the bad training camps? Eli Stowers basically has not done anything with anybody, has been rolling with the lowest team they have available, and then made one play down the seam for a big explosive play because it was a busted coverage. You're like, that guy's basically, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a wasted draft pick, but like he's not featuring this year unless people get hurt and or things accelerate dramatically.
I wonder why that is. If they're just dropping him in at tight end and he's unable to do everything, or if they've carved out that big slot role that he might be a better fit for.
I feel like he's this classic, the old school move tight ends that teams didn't really understand how to use. Like he's that at the moment. He's a tweener. He's a wide receiver / tight end, and they're currently trying to make him one or the other.
And then let's wrap up the rookie discussion with Jordan Tyson. He had that sweet route that everybody saw too.
I mean, he's had multiple sweet routes. The one Nick Underhill posted a video of him that was just, it was textbook.
Busting with the Boys said it was the best route of all time.
The best route of all time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
think somebody on their social media posted we think this is one of the best routes we've ever seen or something like that, and Will Compton responded. He's like, "What are you talking about?"
I mean, it's the blaze out, which always looks good.
Always looks good. This is like Julio has reps where dudes were like running off the screen.
It wouldn't crack the top 10 of Julio Jones blaze out routes, but it's nice. And it is textbook. This isn't even the best angle of it. There's one Underhill has from the other way, which you can see him like threatening the leverage of the corner inside, making a move with the first move, and then bounce it back to the outside. It's really smooth. It's nice. It's really nice. It is, however, it's a route that is, it's very hard to cover a blaze out well because it's a route that basically screws DBs.
It's perfect for training camp hype.
Yeah, but it's not even the only, Tyson's been making plays all over the place, and I think he's had a ton of hype surrounding him as well. Like his over-under in receiving yards there is almost right there with Carnell Tate's. The only difference being he's probably still the number 2 conclusive receiver on that receiving core, with Chris Olave likely to get the majority of the looks, whereas Carnell Tate's the alpha in that Tennessee receiving core. He'll get way more opportunity, you would think. So that would be how I would separate those two guys, even if they both look spectacular.
All right, here's what we're going to do. Let us know who we missed. rookies on either side of the coin, either hyped up or slow starts. But it's breaking news time. Let's get to the Bugler.
Now it's time for the Wednesday Update, brought to you by the Cincinnati Bugler.
Now, we got to break out the accent. As I said, we don't have the music, but still. All right. Just in from the pages of the Cincinnati Bugler. From the sun-baked practice fields of Cincinnati, Ohio, comes an extraordinary dispatch that may well alter the balance of power in the burgeoning National Football League. The Cincinnati Bengals, those striped warriors of the gridiron, continue their rigorous summer training maneuvers, and into this fray has stepped a towering young recruit, a fourth-round selection from the recent draft, one Colbie Young, wide receiver from the University of Georgia. In the space of mere days, Young has distinguished himself with a series of spectacular aerial receptions that have left veteran observers grasping. Whether this promising recruit will seize a regular role when the preseason battles commence remains to be seen. But mark this well, America. If Young continues his present form, the Bengals' aerial attack may possess depth of a most formidable order. We now return you to our regular scheduled program. Now, Emily, if that didn't get it done, I don't know what will.
That was good.
It's Associated Press. It's a press report. What more do you want? How more legacy media does it get?
Chop it up. Let's go. We're going to hand deliver it 3 minutes down the road here to the practice facility. Mm-hmm. We're going to hand deliver the reel. And
right.
If we don't get press credentials after that, I mean, you're going to win some awards here.
Black and white and grainy.
You know? That was good. I have many questions.
Yeah?
First of all, you wrote it out.
I did. Yeah.
Did you run this through like the throwback version of Gazoogle or the new AI?
That's right.
To get remember Gazoogle?
Yeah, it's all AI now.
Yeah.
No, I could do this by
Gazoogle was ahead of its time.
It was. Yeah.
Now it's just like
that's basically the written equivalent of what I'm asking to happen on broadcast.
And then you broke out this accent, which was really interesting to me. So is that your like throwback British Isles?
It's the Mid-Atlantic accent that you talk about all the time. So there's this sort of weird crossover in the 1930s and 40s where everybody kind of
talked like this, and
but there's a slight difference.
There's Babe Ruth and the New York Yankees.
The British one was slightly different to the American one, but they were both way closer than a British accent and an American accent.
You somehow tried to combine both.
Yeah, the Mid-Atlantic accent.
You combined where the way my grandfather spoke.
Right.
There's like a little bit of Boston in there. Yeah. It's a mix of a lot of stuff.
Mid-Atlantic. You're basically, you're positioned between the two of them.
It's Boston meets England. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Why? And there was some. The algorithm fed me something about like why that accent existed and why people did people actually talk like that, or was it just in the movies and in
No, I think people
public?
Yeah. There's also there's a weird quirk where people from Newfoundland talk like Cork, I think it's Cork. There's a regional accent in Ireland, I forget which one, but people from Newfoundland sound like they're from West Cork. It's like that makes no sense at all. It's ridiculous. It's simultaneous evolution or whatever.
So they don't speak Canadian.
No, they sound like they're from literally the back end of West Cork, which is an accent that's almost indecipherable for anybody else in the island of Ireland as well.
So I think that's how we do the Bugler every week here. But that's hope. We're hoping that's the olive branch to the Cincinnati Bengals to prove that we are legitimate media,
actual media.
Yes, we're not just some startup, spooled up new media podcast. We're legit. We're established that was a legitimate report from Bengals camp. Even without access, you were able to pull sources to get that kind of information.
We have just given you a full newsreel bulletin about young rookie wide receiver Colbie Young. I feel like that deserves a press credential.
I think so. And you're also an AP voter, if we could just throw that in there.
Right.
So the
press.
Colbie Young was in our rookie breakout. What does that mean? Like, Josivac is still wide receiver 3 there for the Bengals, but if Colbie Young if he's legit and just adds another weapon to that group, man.
I mean, look, we had this discussion on the show the other day about the best receiving corps in the NFL, and it was pretty clear for both of us that 1-2 in some order is Dallas and Cincinnati. My argument is Dallas was ahead because I think Ryan Flanoy is notably better than the number 3 on the Bengals. A lot of people push back on that, basically just using receiving yards. And we're like, well, Princeton has got better receiving yards than Flanoy in his career. And yeah, but did you watch him play last year? It wasn't good. Meanwhile, Flanoy played really well last year. And say, even if you move just a slight step further than yards and go to, say, yards per route run, Flanoy was like double Yoshivas last year. So I would argue that Flanoy is significantly better, unless Princeton has a massive bounce-back season, or unless Colbie Young is the guy. And he's been making the Cyrus Young, Cyrus, I can't, for some reason I keep combining those two names. Cyrus Allen plays all the way through training camp. Like
right.
he's had the same kind of hype and been an absolute baller so far. So maybe he is the dude. Maybe he becomes their number 3 and is better than Flanoy, and suddenly this is the best receiving core since Randy Moss, Chris Carter, and Jake Reed in 3 deep in the Vikings.
Other Bugler news that we need to hit on. Bears safety Colbie Bryant with a knee injury. It was supposed to just be a couple weeks. It's going to be months.
Yeah.
Maybe the season. But it's an extended period of time.
It got revised upwards, which I think should be against the rules. You should only be able to revise injuries downwards.
Only good news, not bad news.
Real bummer from their perspective, and for him, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big play because they overhauled their safety room with Colbie Bryant, Dylan Thieneman, their first-round pick, Jaquan Brisker, and Kevin Byard out the door. My biggest question for the Bears is still their defensive line, their pass rush, their ability, their run defense, basically their defensive line. They invested in the back 7 a lot more, though, with Devin Bush at linebacker, Colbie Bryant at safety, Thieneman, who I mentioned. Losing one of those guys, yeah, that's a big blow for the Bears.
Lucrative claims to have found the clip where I've said he's Ed Reed. Do we want to take bets on what exactly the wording is that isn't what he says it is when we go and research this?
I mean, he just said what you said, and it's not. He said talking about potential lack of speed, but an elite player like Ed Reed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we've already moved from saying he's the next Ed Reed to directly comparing him to Ed Reed, which is an entirely different thing. So that's what I'm saying. Now that he's found the clip and given us, I mean, obviously we're going to go look at it after this. I'm just curious what this will actually be as opposed to what he's saying it is.
We just said, you've always said we need to embrace
comparisons.
Right.
Comparisons are not equations. They're not saying this guy is that guy, which is what he's just claimed.
Or we're comparing, he might not have the speed. We don't know what his exact speed is because he didn't run.
I can compare Caleb Downs to this cup of coffee. I'm not saying he is this cup of coffee. I'm saying this has a hard exterior and a thermos capability to keep liquids warm. Like it's you can compare whatever you want to anything else.
This coffee does the job for me every day. It's dependable, just like Caleb Downs.
Right.
Dependable. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean he's a cup of coffee.
So I will watch the clip afterwards. I will almost certainly discover that it's not saying he's the next Ed Reed and move on with life.
Went with the Italian roast here today. It's good. Save that stuff for the end of the show. The crazy ramblings. I got to talk about my AI baseball journey the other day, too. We're running out of news here. Quinnen Williams extended by the Dallas Cowboys.
So the trade is now complete. The Micah Parsons trade. We now get to say, well, this is good or bad for Dallas.
Our friend Ari did have the tweet where he declared the Cowboys. Let me see how he worded this exactly here. Cowboys COO Stephen Jones believes Micah Parsons' trade is now full and complete.
That's it.
Following the Quinnen Williams extension. So the Packers get Micah Parsons, 4 years, $186 million. Cowboys get Quinnen Williams, 3 years, $105.9 million, but also Kenny Clark and Malachi Lawrence. Remember, they also traded, so the Jets get a 2026 second-round pick, 2027 first-round pick, and Mozzie Smith. So the Cowboys walking away with Quinnen Williams at, using the top-end numbers that Ari puts here, $80 million cheaper than Parsons, but also one fewer year from Quinnen, but also getting Kenny Clark at defensive tackle and first-round edge rusher Malachi Lawrence. I think for the Cowboys to feel good about this, Quinnen's great. He doesn't have as big of an impact as Micah Parsons, but he's great. If Malachi Lawrence comes good, I know you don't grade process by the exact. The process could still be bad even if it works out well. But Malachi Lawrence hitting and having the pass rush upside that he has as a first-round pick out of UCF, that makes the Cowboys feel much better about this deal. If he doesn't hit, they're not going to feel so good. But that's the final trade. Jets, I think, walk away in a pretty good spot. Quinnen's awesome. He would be a great part of their nucleus. But did they get D'Angelo Pons with that second rounder? D'Angelo Pons still have next year's first-round pick, which could be involved in a quarterback play plus the throw-in of Mozzie Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I continue to basically think the same thing about this trade, which is since the moment they did it, they did a very good job of turning all of that into the best things they could turn it into. You know, getting Quinnen Williams, getting Kenny Clark, getting an edge rusher to add to Donovan Ezeraku. They've done a really good job. However, I don't know that it's any better than if you just paid the elite top 5, difference-making edge rusher you had to begin with. And I don't also necessarily agree with just taking his, I think you could have gotten that number a lot lower if you just paid him when he should have been paid, right? His number became what it became because you dragged it out so long and had to trade him away, and so he had all the leverage. If you just paid him early, the way most other teams do, the number would not have been an $80 million saving. It might have been something substantially lower than that. So I don't think you can necessarily do that either.
All right, man. Other news and things that we wanted to touch on. We mentioned Mike MacDonald on Hard Knocks. We won't be able to pull the audio necessarily for fear of copyright strikes or whatever may happen, but you mentioned earlier, it's a good showing for MacDonald from at least, the clips that have gone around, and seems like a very thoughtful guy. Took charge at practice. He was pissed at Derek Hall because he kept bull rushing the tackle way too close to the quarterback, and he was like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, 2 plays. He told him off effectively for the first one. It was like, hey, what are you doing bull rushing the quarterback? You're getting too close to him. And Hall was like, I wasn't. I tried a hump move, blah, blah. And he's like, well, it's not the time. Man, look, I don't know how close together this was. It's edited, who knows what the editing did. But seemingly the very next play, Derek Hall's back in the quarterback's lap again, and he's like, all right, come on. Now you're just being stupid.
I think we should just do a segment where we real-time react to training camp news. David Bailey just had a sack.
Oh.
David Bailey, per Connor Hughes, David Bailey just had another sack in team drills, came flying around the edge to bring down Mayfield. I'm going to assume that he defeated someone one-on-one here, and it wasn't unblocked. So he tapped Baker Mayfield to end the play.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
David Bailey.
Does that substantially change your analysis so far?
No, I just think it's fun. It backs it up. David Bailey's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny that one time that it was the unblocked play. It's like, that's not David Bailey. What else we got here? Move the Sticks.
Oh, yeah.
Moving the Sticks podcast has had a makeover.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
So Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, both NFL media, had their own draft-centric podcast called Moving the Sticks. Both are no longer with NFL media, particularly, DJ going, so ESPN buys NFL media. They take some of their talents, get rid of some of the other talents. The NFL still owns the podcast feed, worlds that we are familiar with.
Indeed.
And they have, it sounded like it was AI. You're telling me that's a real human behind.
So I'm reliably informed. I'm going to say I haven't investigated this too closely, but
Take the hat off. If you're not investigating, you might need to do, can we respect the office a little bit better here and do some real research on this thing? Is it AI or is it not?
I have been anecdotally told that it is a real human who does their game previews and stuff, and they've just decided to park all of that stuff on the popular podcast feed that existed for something else and rolled with it. It's cool.
Can we get to DJ and ask him, because we've never had the official phone number exchange. Why don't you go through CD?
I have his number now.
You have DJ. Do you have DJ's number?
I got it after.
Shoot him a text and just say, look, I'm curious if you tried to get the feed on your way out as we tried from our former employers.
Told you to get bent.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. I would be curious about that.
Podcast, and we could talk about this. Podcast audio feeds are really, really interesting because they don't grow in ways that other mediums like YouTube has some virality to it, and you could tell people, hey, I'm on YouTube, or here's this clip, and it pushes people there. The audio feeds on podcasts are tough to, even experts in the industry don't know exactly how to properly advertise them to get them to grow. It's really this organic word of mouth type of thing. And so when we were at PFF, it grew, and it was at this really high point, and we were hoping that we could buy the feeds from them when we were leaving the company, and they said no, and they kept it. But there's also the listenership, and we appreciate all of our listeners here, are more attached to the hosts than maybe employers realize, you know? So you have this back and forth between we're creators, for lack of a better term, the creators and then the company, because the company sees you have X number of listeners. We like having X number of listeners. We're going to keep the feed. And they don't necessarily realize that once the creators, the talent, the people leave, you lose like 2/3 of that group. So my assumption is this Moving the Sticks podcast, whatever number, if they had whatever 100,000 listeners per week, I bet it's down to 30 or 20. And then if the NFL is like, no, we're not giving this away, that's a lot of listeners. We don't want to lose them. Like they're going to lose. You lose 2/3 of them, and it's always this like battle, this tug of war between the talent and the company. And the company thinks, well, we already have this established feed. We'll just drop in a new person or whoever, and the new person could be great,
right?
But there's an attachment to the talent that I think they underrate.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, executives, if you want to put them into that bucket across the whole industry, treat a podcast feed, they treat things like that, they treat an audience as an asset, right? It's like this is this thing that we've accumulated, and they're worth X amount of dollars, and so it's like, how do we use that asset? Well, we'll just put a different person in there. It doesn't matter. The asset's worth money, and we'll just monetize these guys somewhere else. But it's not. That's not what they are. They're an audience. They've subscribed to a specific thing to specific people usually, and if those things disappear, well, then what's remaining is no longer the asset you think it is, because they're only worth anything if they're tuned in to listen to those people. They're not worth something just because they've subscribed to a feed if you then change what they subscribe to. So this seems like a great example of that, where, DJ and Bucky leave. They're like, no, this is an asset. We're keeping this, and then we'll just park something else on it. And you're like, well, that's not like the disrespect you're showing to the listeners by being like, we'll just put any old crap on there, with the greatest of respect to the person who everybody thought was AI. It's like, how little respect do you have for the actual audience that you think you can take two industry titans, if you want to term them that, two legends of the game, two awesome guys, and just be like, no, we'll get rid of them and we'll replace them with somebody that most people will think is generated AI for a completely different topic. It's not even talking draft, just like game previews, and be like, that'll be good. That's still a monetizable asset. Let's rock with that. Like, I mean, come on.
And that's why I was really curious if DJ was trying to take that
Right.
with him on the way out, the thing that he built and everything. And I get it, like the company.
I mean, you
owns
should
it.
for two different reasons. Number one, because it is worth something to you, because that's your audience. And number two, because they kill it. Like leaving it in the hands of the executives that are too dumb to understand its value kills it. And again, from some firsthand experience there. Like it's worth something intact with the people that they're subscribed for. It's not worth something if you just try and plug in something new and everyone goes, what the hell is this crap? I'm out.
Because it's worth way more to the talent or creator than it is to the executives, to the company.
It's only worth something intact. It's not worth something when you break it up.
I mean, that was our point when leaving PFF. It was like, hey guys, you're gonna take a hit. No offense to Trevor and
right.
whoever else came in. It's like the whole show was calibrated to our audience.
Yes.
Right. We built it based off of.
It's an audience for that. It's not.
Right.
It's not that. Like it's not even about. The stock exchange is awesome. Trevor and Connor's audience may end up bigger than ours. Like it's not even about who has the larger audience. It's the point is that is our audience.
That particular feed
right.
was calibrated.
So you can't just swap the people and be like, well, the audience will be the same. It's not. Like it's two different audiences.
It's a good point. Like if stock exchange was no longer and they said, hey, Sam and Steve, take over this feed, we would lose
right
2/3 of their audience probably.
Yes.
Not because people don't like us and we don't have our fans. It's just it's
a different audience.
It's their people. It's a different audience, and people don't realize that. So it was just interesting to me seeing that because if DJ, whatever they built up from an audio feed perspective, it's probably worth way more to him. And I know he's going somewhere else and he's going to start up his own podcast, but like that's like starting from scratch is difficult. Restarting an audio feed,
it's just needlessly
is
destructive.
very difficult. YouTube can go a lot faster, and we appreciate everybody on YouTube here getting us to almost 90,000 subscribers. We announced right around this time 2 years ago that we were making the move, and within 2 years, 90,000 subscribers, closing in on 100,000. You can do more on YouTube as far as growth. It's really tough to get the audio. Ours is getting up there, but it is really tough to grow it from scratch. And it is, again, worth far more to the people that built it than the people that are retaining it.
It's just a needlessly destructive approach to the whole thing based off, I assume, ignorance. And it's unfortunate because, like, you know, people criticize Barstool Sports and Dave Portnoy, and there's a lot of things that they've done that are bad. But Portnoy, you know, sees this. Portnoy understands that, like, if somebody leaves Barstool and things don't work out, or they get a better offer they can't turn down, or whatever it is, he, generally speaking, lets them leave with their IP, with their audio feed, because, like, what's the point? There's no point in them keeping it and trying to repurpose it because it's a different audience, right? He sees that, whereas faceless executives that don't really understand the industry, or if it's just an offshoot of what they're doing, don't. And so they go, no, this is an asset. We're keeping the asset without, you know, why would we give it up? Like, because it's not what you think it is without the people that created it.
We do that too, at the time.
Sure.
But again, we appreciate the audience that we're talking to right here, because you guys you've come with us or joined us, been a part of the journey. It's all fun. But yeah, we dealt with that for years because remember every time like Chris would show up on a lot of people listen to Chris every single week, like Chris, but he'd show up on our show.
I mean, he's literally the color guy for the biggest TV audience in the country every week.
And I know.
And yet our numbers go down when he comes on the show.
We would literally argue with them, like, it's not going to do well. Just putting Chris on the show and advertising Chris, like, it's not going to do better on our show because our audience it's a different audience.
I mean, they was it week one? They tanked like one of our biggest weeks of the year because they benched us for a week. You got into trouble, and somehow that resulted in me being benched too. And so the show became Chris, George, and Renner, poor Renner, for a week. And it was one of our worst performing shows of the year, and it should have been our biggest.
They did an hour-long show because people don't want long-form shows. And if we put Chris on the thumbnail, everybody will click into it.
Be thankful you got more than 35 minutes.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm a busy man.
That's how we ended up over here. We just continued to listen to what the people wanted, right? And we're always listening.
Yeah. But it's sad to see it happen elsewhere. You know, NFL media, ESPN, like there are people there that should know better than that. And either they didn't or they didn't care because they saw financial worth to it. I just thought it was worth talking about because it's a really interesting world. Like
sports radio does this all the time. And again, I grew up in Boston where it's like really heated. And if you're not getting numbers in Boston, it's kind of like the QB thing. They don't give you a chance.
Right.
Like you get 6 months and then they move on and like, we got to change the lineup. We got to change the personnel. And so sports radio is very reactive. The podcast world, it is not easy to just start and build an audience. We're lucky that we started early, back before podcasts were a thing, and able to build an audience and everything, but it takes some time. But the chemistry thing is similar to sports radio, where you have to have the right combination. And I know ESPN has tried a lot of things through the years, right? They have this pool of talent, and like, what if these two people are together? What if these two people are? And some of them work, some of them don't. And so you're always experimenting with that type of thing, a little bit like the way sports radio works. You just have more of a runway, I think, in podcast world, or when you're not under the big banner of ESPN or whatever.
The local my default radio station is just some rock station in Cincinnati, and they changed the morning lineup from what I assumed was doing well just by the way they promoted it, and yet they just randomly pulled one of the guys from like the afternoon show, threw him on the morning show, like broke up the partnership, threw in the afternoon guy. And it's like this is weird.
Some people don't like change either.
Nobody likes change.
What else do we want to ramble about? We're at the end of the show.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much done.
You were making fun of me because I used the AI. I was very curious. I was baseball stats are out there on.
I wasn't making fun. Well, no, I was making fun of
you. You said it was pretty sad. I'll tell you the second part.
I didn't say it was sad.
It was very sad.
I said it was.
I did something kind of sad. I did something very sad.
That's not what I told you, though. What I told you is that was too far down the serial killer pathway, I believe was the term.
It took no extra time. I was mowing the lawn. I put in a prompt, and I continued mowing the lawn. It took no extra time to do this thing. I was curious because my stats are out there. There's box scores out there. There's the play-by-play, and I had never – what? You want to read it?
I'm just going to give – I think the words are important here since they can be taken incorrectly by certain people listening to the show. You sent me the little thing where you'd basically asked AI. You sent me the thing, your feedback from Claude, and you said good use of AI. And I was unclear whether this was this was AI sort of evaluating general sample size of baseball players, or if you had AI actually reverse engineering your minor league career. To which you replied, I had it search my career and every hitter that I'd faced. So I said, that feels a little too far down the psychopath avenue for me. And then I said, look, this is the stuff that Claude won't tell you, right? Everything's a great idea. Yeah, fantastic. Let me get right on that, Steve. I'm like, look, there are times you need to be told, like a human needs to intervene here and say, okay, you need to step away from the AI prompt. If you're having Claude dig into your minor league baseball stats and project your career, you've taken a turn.
That was the second part.
So that was it. Yeah. Then you came back to me and you actually had Claude build out a mythical, fictional
that was
major league career for you,
which was good. It was a good career.
Can I read it? I only really want to read one line from it, but you may need to read the whole thing.
Well, really quick, the prompt was, "Hey, it was 2008. I had an arm injury.
Yeah,
I was
I'd never been hurt.
I was on my way to getting called up.
Right.
Give me project a major league career, assuming I get called up in 2008 without the elbow injury.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Where's the good line in it? The arc I built has you surviving 2008 on roster expansion, becoming real in 2009 behind Wilson and Romo, whoever they are.
Brian Wilson, Sergio Romo.
I wasn't interested. And then getting the ring in 2010 from the bullpen railing.
I'm a World Series champion.
Left off the NLDS roster for a lefty, added back for the World Series as the long man nobody needs. You watch Renteria's homer in Game 5 from 400 feet away in foul territory. Counts exactly the same. So it didn't sound like a glittering career that it constructed for you in this make-believe world. But as I said, I told you to walk away from the thing, and instead you went even deeper down the rabbit hole.
I was still mowing the lawn, so I asked, "Hey, what? Just make a career."
Yeah, I mean I feel that's pretty demented.
The original idea, the original question though, is because my stats are out there. I was actually always wondering how I had done against specific hitters. So that was what I was searching. I don't think that's psychopathic or anything like that. Now, when I did say pretend like I made it,
yeah,
what would that look like?
That's a little crazy.
Then the AI was like, hey, it started naming general managers, and then it was like, hey, Jack Sorenzik, this dude, he's in Seattle now. He signed you originally. He's going to bring you back, and then the Rays are going to pick you up because they always buy low on these arms, and you go there and you do this and that, and it was very detailed. But my question was more like, how did I do? I was actually curious how I did against future major league hitters versus, guys that never made it or whatever, and who they were and everything.
The long man nobody needs is a fair play to Claude for that. I mean, that's a level of savagery I didn't know Claude. I was unfamiliar with Claude's game. I didn't know that it had that in its arsenal.
So what I did find out was that Aaron Matthews was a difficult out for me. He was 3 for 9 with a home run against me. I think I gave up a grand slam. He had 4 ribbies against me. I have the list of everybody that hit a home run against me historically. Also had the people, who did I strike out the most? Oh, yeah. So Aaron Bates, he made it to the bigs. 0 for 3, 3 Ks against me. Couldn't touch me.
Yeah.
Bubba Bell, struck him out all 3 times I faced him.
The question I have is, how far away are you from instructing Claude to go back to the drawing board and construct a fiction where you become a superstar?
No, I wouldn't do that. I never even aspired. I just wanted to make it. I didn't even aspire to be a superstar. All these people, I set these high goals. I'm like, I didn't even set goals that high. I just wanted to make it and then figure it out. How do I stay when I get there?
You wanted to be the long man nobody needs.
I did. Yeah. Well, I had a teammate. He's Brian Sweeney's the Royals pitching coach, And we were teammates in 2010. We were in AAA. He's like 35 at the time. He gets called up to Seattle. And I'm, congrats, whatever. So I send him a text like, a week later. Hey, how's it going up there? He's like, I'm just stealing money. Haven't pitched yet. I'm throwing a bullpen every day, like before the game, doing his practice, but he's never getting into a game. I'm like, that's the dream. He sat there for 2 weeks and never got in. And I'm like, that's absolutely the dream.
You see, the chat's got the good stuff, right? Luigi points out a point that I've made to you before, which is if you had better goals, maybe you would have made it. Like, I do think a large part of your failing appears to have been a deep-seated psychological inadequacy.
I had imposter syndrome
That's what I'm saying.
all the time.
And
I'm
then,
sitting there in AAA looking around like, I can't believe I'm here.
Right. And then John makes the point where you need to ask Claude the real question, which is how much money did you leave on the table with that career that it just invented for you? Like, if things had broken another way and you didn't wreck your
I would have made it to year 5. I would have been making about $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Claude
probably,
can tot that up for you.
Probably
So
good.
That's one I'll give you, right? You have my permission to ask Claude one more prompt, which is, given this fiction that it created for you, how much money is that I did not receive?
About 3.5.
Because my arm got hurt.
It's probably Neil PFF money.
Yeah.
It's about Neil money.
Uh-huh.
I've got another story.
First time around.
I got another story that you might have. Did you ever see Field of Dreams?
Yeah, it's my dad's favorite movie.
Okay.
My dad loves that film and wants to put it on constantly, and I think I've
that's
watched
awesome.
it once, and it makes me.
That's awesome.
Don't want to watch it again.
It's a great movie. Classic.
Yeah.
So, Moonlight Graham, familiar with the Moonlight Graham part and everything? Did you see what the Phillies did that I retweeted?
No.
So they had their Field of Dreams game, or they had like a Field of Dreams game, and they took 4 Phillies who had their they gave them their Moonlight Graham moment. 4 Phillies historically that had been on the major league roster but never got into a game or never had an official at bat or pitch or whatever it was, and they brought those 4 guys in to throw out the first pitch of the game. One of the guys is my former teammate of mine, Tim Leahy, who was on the roster in 2008 for 10 days because of funky major league rules. He was a Rule 5 player. First off, I think it was really cool that they did that. It was awesome. To the point where I'm going to text my Giant Bobby Evans, former Giants GM, and say,
this is a great idea. I know of a guy.
He's a consultant for Buster Posey and the Giants. I'm going to ask him, will you do that? Maybe you guys could do this for guys that sat in the major league bullpen for 2 days and I didn't even get into a major league spring training game. Can we have our Field of Dreams moment?
Right.
I'm a spring training Moonlight Graham. Sat there for 2 days with Brian Wilson, with Jeremy Affeldt and all these major leaguers, and never got into the game. But I was in the bullpen for 2 days. But Tim, the Rule 5 draft, you'll love this. The Rule 5 draft in baseball, if you're in the minors for at least 5 years, you got to be put on the 40-man roster, or maybe it's 3 years, 40-man roster, right? Which is like you're a major leaguer, you could get called up and down, whatever. But you might still be in the minors. If you're not on the 40-man, other teams can just pick you up in the Rule 5 draft. They draft you. But the rule is you have to stay on the major league roster that year. And you have 10 days to decide. And if you don't keep them for the entire season, they get sent back to the original team. So my friend Tim was a Rule 5 draft pick by the Phillies. So he goes through spring training. He's on the major league roster for 10 days, never gets into the game. And then they send him back to the Twins. And so he had 10 days of major league service time, never threw a pitch. It was 2008. The Phillies won the World Series that year. I think he may have gotten a World Series ring. They give rings to everybody that was on the roster. So he probably has a World Series ring, but never threw a pitch. But he was one of those Moonlight Graham first pitch guys last week. That was pretty cool. Pretty cool promotion. Rule 5 draft stuff. So he's a Phillies legend. Oh, yeah, that'd be hilarious if Kelly's going to go into labor the day we get Bengals credentials.
That would require them responding to us in any way, shape, or form.
We have Mike Renner on call.
Yeah.
For when I have to go. Mm-hmm. Kelly's claiming she needs me for like a week. She's like, you got to take a week off from shows.
Wow. A week maternity leave from Check the Mic.
Oh, man.
I don't think that's in our bylaws anywhere.
If we were still at PFF, I'd have like 4 months or something. They implemented that right at literally oh, Steve, you had your 4th kid. We're going to give some paternity leave
now. We're clear. Quick.
Like you're basically on sabbatical.
Right.
Could you imagine if I just took football season off?
Right.
Like, oh, yeah. It's paid time off. Find someone else.
You'd be Wally Pipped. By the time you got banked, they'd have somebody else in this.
We'd definitely be gone. Look at you, all your baseball references. It's a great show. Renner's on call. I'm trying to convince Kelly that she doesn't like. I'm like, it's not that much. You know, just come in, do a show, come back. You get the kids to help with the baby. It's you know, we'll see.
Yeah, it's it. You're hitting the golden stretch now, where like the oldest can help the youngest. You know, like my mother was basically raised by her eldest sibling. At this, you know, you're
even
right
my even my 6-year-old, he can help.
Yeah,
or my youngest. All 4 of them are going to be great helps with the baby.
You know, a couple of years, you won't need to do anything. Just Harry, take care of that.
That's what I mean. Yeah. He'll be raising the whole family. Harry's asking when he can start setting up his picks for this year. I'm like, you might get cut off, kid. You might get cut off this year because it was just too much.
Let's get the bankroll ready to go.
He's got his birthday money coming up here. The baby's due on Harry's birthday. It's going to be
We need to set up those leagues at some point.
Yeah, we got to set up. We'll do our picks for everybody in the Discord. Check that out.
I've been so bad. I need to get back into actually being in the Discord more and
interacting with people.
Yeah, been bad. That's my bad.
All right, man. That was it. Enough rambling. Baseball talk. I got a game tonight. If it doesn't get rained out, see how it goes.
It may well.
I met another major leaguer that's playing in my league.
Just everywhere.
Yeah.
44-year-old, I think, 44, Mao Nanu played against the All Blacks the other day, right? 23 years after he made his debut for the All Blacks.
Wow.
Pretty nuts. Like, still playing top-tier rugby, sort of. Literally played against them. It's crazy. 23 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. All right, man. Good show. A lot of fun. We have a 2-hour show.
Like, he's our age, and he's out there playing against the All Blacks right now. If you tried to play against the All Blacks right now, you would be shattered into a million pieces, and I'd be pretty close behind.
Well, yeah, of course I would be. Is that it for us?
Yep.
Tomorrow, O-line.
Great show.
Trench talk. O-line. We got Brandon Thorne and maybe a very special guest talking Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right. That's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. More. Check the mic.